Hello, all you cool cats and kittens, and welcome to episode 145 of the FReality Podcast. Crank your AC to 11 and chill with us for the next 2 hours as we discuss the latest VR news. This week, we're going to be saying goodbye to the Oculus Go as it's being discontinued. We're also going to be discussing Nathy's hands-on, or should I say feet-on experience with the Catwalk C omni directional treadmill. We have a very special guest, Guy Godin, the developer of Virtual Desktop, joining us throughout the show this week. And then finally, we'll be rounding up the show with Zim with some new releases for you to look forward to next week. But for now, let me introduce you to the team and find out what's been the highlight of the week this week. And also let us know in the chat what you've played so we can read out some of your highlights too. First up to the plate, this guy is the latest addition to the Beast Squad, working with Mr. Beast directly on a future viral video involving virtual reality. It's of course our Frisian friend, it's Nathy. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm obviously very busy right now because, as you said, we're working with Mr. Beast on a VR project, and we got the mission to spend $100,000 on low and high-end VR equipment, from the extreme to the most exotic stuff you can get. So we're talking gloves, treadmills, smell devices, everything you can come up with that we have spoken about in this podcast. That is a pleasure for the eyes to look at. Yeah.
So everything we've ever discussed on the show is going to be in his video, pretty much.
also those like shoes, that the rocket shoes.
The rocket shoes. Oh, shoot. No, I did not even think about those yet. But if I can get those rocket shoes in there, that would be amazing. That would be so funny.
Was that a Kickstarter bonus for, what was it, Adam Savage project or something like that?
It was an Adam Savage project, yeah. It was.
That's going back.
But I take it, Jimmy from Mr. Beast, he's going to go like full deep dive on this video, like combine everything he possibly can together in one epic sort of showcase.
Yes, and of course his friends too, because I mean, if you have seen his videos, he always does these crazy challenges with his friends, and it's usually about a lot of money too that they can win or they just spend. So this week I've been reaching out to everyone I know who makes something VR, and we're trying really hard to make that happen. It's quite challenging.
At your place, or is it going to be over at?
No. So let's say some people were confused. They think like I'm gonna be in his video or something. I'm just the one guy who makes sure that all the juicy stuff is going to be in the video. So I'm going to make sure that, he's going to play with the Quest, that he's going to play with, let's say, the Valve Index, that he runs on a certain treadmill. And it's nice that I can now do something back to the VR industry and tell everyone that I know, like, listen, do you want to be in his video? Because this is great promotion. His videos get around 10 to 20 million views. So it's good for us that I'm involved, because if some random person was involved and the Quest doesn't work on video, then everyone, or a lot of people, are going to think that the Quest, for example, isn't that of a great headset, or we get the VR is dead thing again, where it's like, you see, it doesn't even work properly. So it's good that I'm involved, and I'm going to try to make sure that certain things work, because you need to set priorities. If you have that much stuff, I mean, imagine how much stuff you get for $100K. It's insane. So, headsets are, of course, very important that they work. And from there, you kind of, build it up. But I've actually considered to also go to America in a couple of weeks to make sure it's really gonna go well, because I started to notice that doing this over the internet, trying to explain what VR is, trying to explain the certain challenges, the certain problems it can have, is hard to do through a Zoom call, right? So going there is gonna really, nail it. So yeah, we'll see. But it's gonna be super awesome. It's gonna be, I think, the most viewed VR video on the platform for sure, and it's gonna also, advertise VR in a good way. So
Awesome.
I got a question
That
for
sounds
people
great.
who don't know. I mean, I kind of know who Mr. Beast is, but like, is this the same guy who did the trees thing? And
Yes.
and
Yes,
and
yes.
is he? So he's a huge, well-known YouTuber. Is he known from other platforms? What's his background? I'm kind of curious because I've only heard about him on, I think, Twitch a few times in different competitions or something, and then on YouTube. But
I think that's how we got started, right? By giving away money on Twitch
Yeah.
to do certain streamers. I think that's, and making videos about that.
random
I think
donations.
the earliest that I can
Or
remember
not
him making
beginning, maybe.
videos was like him, for example, counting from 1 to like 100,000
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
falling asleep while doing so.
Yeah.
And really trying to push it to the limit with that. But now he's like in the top 10 biggest YouTubers out there. And it was really nice. Like he reached out to me through Twitter and he said like, hey, give me a call because we need your help. So that same evening I gave him a call. He was very nice. He was very on the point. Same here. So then you can really, what do you want? What are we going to do? Let's make it happen. And funny enough, they watched some of my videos and that's how they found me. So they saw the go-kart video at iIllusions. They thought that that's it. That's what we want, and also the one from VR Star Park in China. So for me personally, of course, it's fun to work with Mr. Beast, but getting that acknowledgement once again from someone that, you make something cool and something new, that's what I was going for, because it was like, nice, because this is the content I wanted to make for a couple of years now. So for me, that's the biggest plus point. And now, of course, being responsible for something like this is also cool. But yeah, that's the main thing.
Awesome. Can't wait to see it. So is that your highlight of the week? Or
That is my highlight of the week. Yeah, totally.
big one.
But I do have to say there's one more highlight that I'm also very happy about. And that is that I bought a new bike, a new electric bike. It's going to arrive in September. So I kind of like pre-ordered one. I said that pre-ordering is a crime, but bikes, man, like, sorry, but I just can't resist. So yeah, I'm sure we can.
Right.
Yeah, true. So I'm sure we can talk more about that, in a couple of.
It's not a Kickstarter bike, is it?
No, it is not a Kickstarter bike. No.
You should be good then.
Yeah. You should. True. Yeah. So yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing this video of Mr. Beast. I think it's going to be sick.
Yes.
So yeah, can't wait to see it. So next up, this guy has had to change his name to Nicey VR after moving to Canada because Canadians are renowned for being so nice. It's the man formerly known as Rowdy VR, now Nicey VR. How you doing, dude?
Yeah, I'm not that nice. No, I'm doing great. Although my highlight of this week is rather a little bit of a low light, as I briefly explained to Mike before the podcast as well. Like I made a stupid mistake yesterday by. I have a work laptop, of course. I have a laptop where I do work on, but it's the same laptop where I also do my YouTube stuff and all that kind of stuff up. And I have everything separated on like different kind of partitions. And you guys can already hear where this is going. Right? So yesterday I was working, and I even have it. It's physically separated, so it's two separate hard drives that each have their own operating system. So I have a Windows hard drive for the YouTube stuff and like doing the editing and playing the games, and then I have a Linux hard drive using Arch Linux with which is a separate hard drive, also a solid state drive, and there I do all my work on. But yesterday I was working and I was thinking like, my hard drive on my work laptop is getting quite full. I should start moving some stuff out. So I had everything backed up properly and stuff like that. But then I was like, okay, like I have these kind of, like you have like a timeshare folder where you can go back in time. And there's always like a lot of the backups were in there, so it's like, I can get rid of those now. I don't need those anymore. I have it all backed up. So I was removing everything over, and I was freeing up quite some space. And then all of a sudden, I saw another folder that said backups. It says like, why do I have 2 backup folders? So I started removing in there as well. So removing in there, and I was like completely done. My drive looked nice and clean up until I opened up my application folders and I saw that all of my icons were missing. And when all of your icons are missing, that means that there's stuff. And with Linux, if you remove stuff, it's not
then
like
that is it. No.
It's gone, and it's gone forever. Like, and so I started realizing that something must have gone wrong, and I started with trying to like recuperate and reinstalling the stuff that I needed, but I was like, this stuff is just it's just messed up. So what I did is I wiped my entire drive clean, and I spent yesterday up until 4 a.m. Reinstalling my Arch Linux on my brand new partition on my laptop.
That is such a sad story. I love the fact that this has become like a new little, section of the show, that your lowest point of the week, that you want to share with everyone. But you got everything sorted now. Your laptop's recovered. You can get back to work again.
Yeah, I mean, like I probably still need to like reconfigure everything, like all of the settings that I have and the packages that I have. But that is something that grows with time. As you you start working, you need certain packages. But at the same time, everything is working again and kind of looks like the same as it used to be. So, and I didn't lose. I maybe lost like a little bit of data of last week, but not that much.
That's good to hear. There's sympathy in the chat anyway. So this is just such a tragic thing to happen to anyone. I think we can all relate to that at some point in our lives.
And that is why I was asking before the podcast started as well. Like, what are you guys' opinions on getting a NAS? And I think that's something I should start investing in. I've used Dropbox for quite a while. But ever since I moved to Canada, I had to cancel that contract because it was linked to a business account. So I don't really feel like spending so much money on a personal Dropbox folder when I can also get like a NAS instead.
I'm going to give you my biggest advice there, because as a NAS user for several years, I've backed out of using NAS to a simpler solution, which I think is more robust, and just keep it simple if anyone, because everyone's got some data problem. If you use an external clone interface, so you can use it with standard large hard drive or one of the small SSDs. Those are really helpful because you plug it in like an external drive bay. Just make sure you don't press the clone button. But otherwise, it's a lot cheaper than a NAS if you're just using it for local system. If you want to use the same data across like 5 or 6 different devices, then a NAS, like a Synology NAS, makes sense.
That's what I need for especially for work, because we work with servers and we work with different kind of computers. It's kind of nice to have all of this information in the cloud.
Well, it's important for 2 reasons. I'm going to tell you why it's important. Asgard's Wrath and Dirt Rally 2, because both of those are more than 100 gig installs. And if you are planning to reap from the Steam sale or whatever, people are like, hey, £6 Dirt Rally. And oh no, I need 110 gig free. So you're going to be in the same predicament Rowdy's been in.
Nice. Well, thank you for sharing your low point of the week. That's been a nice little twist to the show there. So next up, he's my virtual raving partner, an all-round nice guy that keeps this fine show afloat. It's VR streamer, ZimTalk5. How are you?
There's holes everywhere in this ship, Mike. We're going down. We're going down fast. I'm good, but the last this period of VR, I'm just so glad there's proper titles now coming out, like Phantom Ops and Iron Man and stuff, because I've been just shoveling coals on the Go and even the Rift. I was like, what's the worst stuff that I could play on the Rift? And I went in and I played a bunch of stuff. My week's been pretty heavy with work, but outside of that, I don't know, I get a lot of sick satisfaction from finding out what's terrible. And to be honest, when you're in the business of just entertaining, sometimes those are some of the gems. We just have such a laugh at, the crazy mechanics that these devs come up with. But I ran across one where, and this happens rarely, where you're you find a diamond in the rough and you're like, how is this actually entertaining? How is this good? I ran across a game that is basically a horror game. Okay, this isn't a great game. I'm not recommending you go out and buy this. You'll know it from the title. But it's called Sharks of Mars Prologue. Sharks of Mars, which is
not that one.
Floating alien sharks that you blast with a laser blaster. It is the best modeled and feeling tactile feedback laser blaster I've ever had in a VR game. So straight out the gates, I opened this game, I went in, I pick up the laser gun, shoot it a couple times. I'm like, damn, that feels pretty good. This isn't joking around. I start walking around this path, and all of a sudden, these giant, great whites that are loaded with, I don't know, some thing that allows them to fly on Mars come at you, and it sounds like it'll all be terrible. It would be fucking horrible. It sounds like a 2-hour student project in Unity. But it actually was a pretty convincing like horror game where you've got these sharks, and it's not wave shooter. You're wandering around the surface of Mars. There's rovers. There's all this stuff. There's even like puzzles and things. And then
Wait. Puzzles? Tell me more. What are those puzzles?
Yeah. Well, the keypad stuff, or do you know that water game where you're like taking water from a pipe and like, twisting the little bits so that the water flows through. Unlock stuff like that, just simple stuff. But like, it was really
you're getting attacked by sharks.
Well, this is exactly the point. It's fucking scary getting attacked by space sharks while you're having to do complicated interactions with the space floats over.
It's quite realistic.
No,
is this like the Sharknado movies? Like they're so bad that it's actually good.
Yeah, that's absolutely where it sits. It's like, and the thing is, the assets in the game, its general performance, the models, the sounds. Like, I was actually scared running across the surface of Mars, getting chased by space sharks.
And what was it called again?
It is called Sharks of Mars Prologue, which means there's more coming.
Oh wow, that was just the prologue. Wow.
But like, you don't expect this kind of thing. I played loads of others that are just absolutely terrible, but it's been for me like, I hate just giving devs like avoid on their titles, but that's how it's been for me for about 2 weeks now. And this is like the one thing where I was like, all right, you can consider buying this. You can consider it, but it's not a
what you're saying, like the longer you get to play shovelware games, the more you tend to play games with sharks in them, and
then they become
pretty
good.
Much. Yeah,
And
there
they
seems to
become
be
good,
a direct linear correlation between the number of sharks and indie titles when you play them long enough. Either that or my standards are just dropping with insanity.
Didn't we see like one with sharks on like high heels with like women's legs and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we covered this on the show and in releases one time. As
the
like
one with the
of those funny
drones,
ones.
right? And
I think so. Yeah.
That
I
was like
think
a
so,
tower. That was like a tower defense game almost. You were like sitting in place and wave shooter / tower defense sharks and heels. That's not the same one.
Wow. So there you go. If you've ever dreamt of being on Mars and being chased by sharks, that's the solid recommendation of the week. So now it's time for me to introduce you to our special guest this week, developer of Virtual Desktop, Guy Godin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's so cool to have you on the show. I think we've been in passing at events and stuff like that, but we've never had the opportunity to chat before. So really looking forward to diving into the details around Virtual Desktop and how you got that started. But we're going to be talking about that later on in the show. Yep. I did sort of ask Guy if he had a highlight of the week, but you said that you've been pretty busy, full on developer mode, and haven't really played that much recently. Is that right?
Yeah, the last thing I played was Half-Life Alyx when it came out. I played for 30-40 minutes. And that's the only gaming I've done in a year.
You hated it.
So, no, I loved it. It was great. It was great.
I guess for you, like trying these games is just a case of like you just want to test the your system, right? Yeah, I get that. And that's the thing, having met many developers out there, they get so, stuck into their own projects that they generally don't get the opportunity to play other stuff. Or by the time at the end of the day comes, the last thing they want to do is spend more time in virtual reality. So I do get it. But thankfully, shows like ours and channels like ours are good sort of resources of information of, people like yourselves can keep track of what's going on without actually trying it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And people in the chat are very happy to see you as well, because we have Nim Sony, we have saying, I remember following your explanation on the DirectX and screen hooking that you did for Virtual Desktop. And Meow Meow, the gamer cat, great name. Oh my God, Guy Godin, thank you, Wireless Quest PC VR is a bliss.
Yeah, a lot of people really appreciate your work. So, they appreciate your sacrifice. You don't get to play that much, but you get to, allow everyone else to enjoy the games on your behalf. So we really appreciate your sacrifice. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Mike, host of the show from Virtual Reality Oasis. But before we get into what I played this week and my highlight of the week, let's find out what everyone in the chat has been up to.
Yes. So we have Pete Shiri, who played Golf Club VR. There is apparently a new content update for Carnage Chronicles. I still think it's a great game to play. It's an RPG as far as I know. And he just bought Elite Dangerous as well to practice for Squadrons when it finally drops. And he also bought a HOTAS, so he seems to be ready to
Very
go.
Nice.
Yes. Wow. And then we have Dangerous, who for $8, let's see, played Skyrim VR and spent about 3 hours to get mods up, and then played for about 15 minutes. But those 15 minutes were amazing. Wow. It's like, okay, I wonder what happened in those 15 minutes, because I can remember playing Skyrim. I just got chased by the whole village for killing their chickens or something.
Now, one word there, Nathy. Skooma.
Skooma. Oh yeah, Skooma. If you get the opportunity to check out the Skooma Quest on Skyrim, do it. Man, that's amazing. That's a funny quest. Then we have Watto UK, who didn't play that much this week because of the heat, but he did jump into Elite Dangerous and VR chat, and also played some Horizon Zero Dawn on PlayStation. And then last but not least, we have Supa Fupa, who jumped into Truber Saves the Universe on the Quest.
I love that game
now as well. Yeah.
So cool that people are enjoying that game again. Nice. Some great recommendations there. So this week, I've been playing a lot of The Last of Us 2, which is a Pancake game, of course, because it's been very hot here in the UK. So I've been down in my hobbit hole playing Pancake games. I did, however, complete Phantom Covert Ops, which I thought was a really solid VR title from the team at Endreams. Really enjoyed it. It's relatively short, about sort of 2-3 hours. But it's got some replayability with sort of challenge missions and stuff like that. So, if you're on Quest or Rift, highly recommend you go check it out. It's definitely one of the sort of highlights of this year so far, I would say, in terms of VR titles on the Oculus platform. So that was pretty good. But the thing I want to highlight is something I did with Zim at the end of last week, and
I'm getting these kind of like how's it called, Striking Vipers vibes.
Yeah, sure, yeah, you would, Rowdy, you would. But yeah, it's what we did together was we went into VR chat and we went to a virtual event of Jean-Michel Jarre that was hosted in VR chat. And Jean-Michel Jarre, if you're not aware of him, he's like a French musician, famous for his albums called Oxygen and Equinox. And he put on a free event in VR chat, which was kind of hosted by VR Room, I think. It was everyone could turn up. I even sort of dressed up for the occasion, got my avatar all dressed up with a nice sort of sparkly suit from Taffy Avatars, which we've talked about on the show before. But it was just really nice just to meet up with VR friends. So like Zim was there, Gamertag VR was there, Don VR Gamer Dude was there, and a few fans from the show as well, like Watto was there as well. And we were just able to enjoy this event together and dance for about an hour or so to this great music. And then afterwards, we just hung out in like a virtual bar and chatted for a bit. And the weird thing is I think it's just because we've been in lockdown for so long now, but it felt like a night out. It actually felt like a proper night out with the lads. Do you know what I mean? It was so weird. And it's something that I've really missed, and not really realizing that I've missed it, this kind of social interaction since lockdown. So it's just really nice to get out there and hang out with friends and just have a little dance and enjoy an evening together.
Yeah, it was special though. Like it kind of harkened back to PAX or Oculus Connect or something like that. Just being able to hang out and talk to people like before the event, and I'm sure I know you were there after the event with the guys as well. But like that time to me was more special than even the event itself. The reason to get together, to like hang out and just catch up, and like that anticipation. If anyone's ever been to a live music show, usually you're waiting around for sometimes hours talking to people, and that's exactly what it felt like. And it felt really nice. And I have to say, Mike's I'll call it a rug suit. Looked just spectacular. And I took your recommendation, and I used Taffy as well. So I will be the second voice recommending second opinion. Taffy's super easy to use, and for $2, I was able to get a really good thing. Now, that we're not sponsored by Taffy, I'm just saying it because it is probably one of the best avatar systems that I've used. The only thing that I noticed was some of the things, like I put a t-shirt on and I went into VR chat. I'm like, why is my t-shirt black? There's supposed to be a kitty on this. So there are some like conversion problems I noticed. And weird, sometimes the Rift shows certain things that the Quest doesn't. But otherwise, Taffy's fantastic. It was a really cool event. And actually what a lot of people who were blocked from joining the event or not able to get in due to issues, I hope they like rerun it, like the same set, maybe with minor tweaks, and just rerun the show again another time.
Yeah, I know a lot of people had technical issues, and I know the show ran late as well due to technical issues. But this is like the first few events that are doing this. Like Nathan and I went to the virtual base event, a few weeks back, and that was really great as well. And I think this virtual event idea, is just going to explode from here. Those things like the Travis Scott event that we saw in Fortnite recently just was like huge. So I can just see that evolving into virtual reality over the next sort of coming months and years.
There has to be only one artist that is very big that just gets to see this from a friend that just opens his mobile phone, and from there we're gonna see something crazy. I mean, if Travis Scott was investing all those millions, and also Oculus or some other company together, then I think you can do it. I think it's possible right now for sure.
I just think that VR chat, like my opinion on it, VR chat doesn't seem like the right platform. It doesn't seem stable enough. I love the avatar system, but I wish that VR chat and Wave would have like a baby together, because and I have to highlight this, I didn't know, but Imogen Heap is going to do another Wave show in like August or September, and actually her original performance is playable in Wave right now. So I've recommended that before. You can go and you can actually watch that. And there was a kind of a pride, I don't want to call it a parade, but like a celebration that they were doing for a couple of days, and that was also really good music. So and I think a lot of times they'll replay that stuff for like a week or whatever before they drop it off. So do check out Wave if you're a big into music and you just want a taste of this stuff, or just need to be convinced to come along to one of these things.
Well, there was this, like, when I was at E3 last year, there was this one company called the Red Pill. And they were experimenting with having like a DJ mocap live in their platform, but also with dancers that were interacting with you. Also, all recorded live from their studio, but then converting that to one big dance floor. So it was only focused on the dancing and the celebration experience. Because as you said, VR chat is much more. So a lot of the things that you don't really need during a concert could be kind of left out in VR chat. So the performance is better. And because I do feel like, when you go to those concerts in VR chat, sometimes, the connection isn't that great and it kind of lags a little bit. So if you build something from the ground up just for that, I think it's going to be way better. But I don't know if you, like, I would miss that, big community that VR chat has that just rolls in. So it's hard to, you need both worlds, but yeah.
And one thing that I also want to touch on, because Zim mentioned the Wave, is that we were mistaken last week on the show about the John Legend event in the Wave, and it wasn't in virtual reality at all in the end, which was a real disappointment. And I'm surprised that wasn't the case. I just thought like the Wave was just like a VR platform, but they've sort of spread out now and they call themselves the Wave XR. So that was
confusing for sure.
Is that
something
like?
That was
I wonder. Do you think that's a survival technique, and maybe? I that's the way I feel it. I feel like if a platform is having a tough time from being VR only, that you spread your tech. You're like, I've got the technology, I can do this other stuff as well. I just kind of would like to see. I would have liked to see them brand that as something different.
Wouldn't it make sense to have it both then? To have it that 2D players can go in and VR players.
But the thing is,
just saying, because it's non-VR.
It's both VR and non-VR, I believe. VR chat. So.
True. Yeah, exactly. But the Wave is apparently...
the Wave is... Okay.
It definitely has something to do with money, because making the VR support does cost some money too. And I think the people that you then contact, some people at those production teams from John Legend have never played VR before. So how are you ever gonna sell the concept to them then, right? So
yeah, I just thought it was a shame. It was a kind of missed opportunity, because that would have been cool to go and do as well, especially after this VR chat event. But that was my highlight of the week anyway. So let's get into some news, because the first bit of news that we got this week is kind of interesting, and that is that Oculus have acquired another development studio, and that is Ready at Dawn, the developers behind Lone Echo, Echo Arena, and Echo Combat. Now, the team at Ready at Dawn will be joining Beat Games, who of course made Beat Saber, and Sanzaru Games, who made Asgard's Wrath and Marvel Powers United, and they will all be Oculus exclusive development studios. Now, at this time, we don't know how much Oculus paid for these studios. It's not been disclosed yet, but I'm sure we'll get that information eventually. But Oculus, they've always been betting big on VR from the very beginning. So, this is another big power play from them, to snap up some of the most prominent sort of developers in the VR scene and get them creating, exclusive titles just for their platform. So it's a smart move. And we also saw Sony doing this recently as well with the Stormland developers, Insomniac Games. But I think that's more to do with the fact that, they made Spider-Man and Ratchet and Clank, which were amazing pancake games, rather than, their prowess in the VR scene. But it'll be interesting to see if Insomniac make any VR titles for, future PSVR, and that, they'll be exclusive to the PlayStation platform, of course. But the question is, if you were Oculus right now, who would you acquire next if you could choose any VR development studio out there? Maybe Virtual Desktop? Would you be up for that guy?
Not selling.
No.
Not for sale.
Not for sale. Sorry, Oculus, not for sale. What about you guys?
That's a shame, because we had a
Yeah, there was going to be 10 million. No. So what about you guys? What do you think? Like, if there was one studio out there that you could choose, who would it be? And feel free to join in the chat as well. But particularly VR studios.
Can it be a branch? Because I would go for Shell Games. I would say Shell Games out of Philadelphia.
Yeah, they've made some. No, I expect you to die and until they fall.
Yeah, I think they get VR, and it's they're a long-lasting game studio, so they know their stuff. They got the pedigree.
Okay, what about you, Nathan? Any suggestion?
So instead of buying into a studio that has already proved itself, I would go for an indie and kind of see what they can pull off. I would go for Vertical Robot.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah.
That's just one game. I think the sales reflect enough, because I mean that's how I think Facebook buys their stuff, based on data, based on money. And I think that Vertical Robot has definitely proved after the Quest launch of Red Matter that they are worthy.
They can pivot.
Yeah, they also made Daedalus as well on the go, which was a really solid title. What about you, Rowdy? Any good suggestion for you?
Yeah, Rockstar? No.
Rockstar, oh my god, yeah.
No,
can you imagine the kickback from the community? They would absolutely lose their minds if
or like
Oculus
Naughty Dog or something like that.
And it was just VR exclusive from here on out. That would be
Facebook acquires Rockstar. I can just imagine the broken windows now.
Oh man, yeah.
But I'm trying to think of it in a way Oculus has already acquired quite a few studios and actually fairly different genres as well. And I find it interesting that they very, very much focus on those story-driven kind of experiences. Like you have Asgard's Wrath, which comes from Oculus Studios. You have Lone Echo, which comes from Oculus Studios now as well. Medal of Honor, which is coming from Oculus Studios, right? So you have all these kind of different, very story-driven. So maybe it would be nice to have a studio that does more the Counter-Strike genre. Like, for example, it's never going to happen, of course, Pavlov, Onward.
Yeah.
Those kind of people who are making these kind of games to get them into the Oculus Studios as well. Again, I'm not really a big fan of that, because I think that a lot of those studios do well on their own, and I think that they should be on their own. That I think that is good for them. But it would be nice to see a studio developing those kind of titles with Facebook-backed money.
Yeah,
I think that's making things.
I get that. So my suggestions would be Alchemy Labs. I think that would be a solid one. with Job Simulator, Vacation Simulator.
Well, they would have
fast
to talk
travel
to people
games
if they want to sell it to them, right?
That's very true. That's very true.
Google owns Alchemy Lab now, right?
Right.
So they'd have to buy Google, right?
Buy Google.
Buy Google. Let's do it for Job Simulator.
But like fast travel games is also one with a lot of experience in the virtual reality scene in a lot of
I wouldn't be
genres,
surprised.
So.
I wouldn't be surprised that one gets bought anyways.
And the other two suggestions I had were Cloudhead Games. Pistol Whip doing very well.
Yeah.
And one that I would love, but I don't think they would ever do it, is the Super Hot Team. And the only reason why I would love it is because it would force them to make a sequel, because I just want a sequel. I'm sure they're probably working on one, but I just can't wait for another Super Hot game.
I'd really like to see a crossplay. I'd like them to pull an egg out of one of the other teams' nests. You know what I mean? Like somebody who's, I don't know.
Oh right, yeah.
As much as the other studio that was in my head was Resolution Games, but I'd love them to take something out of Sony's bucket. Get some cross-pollination going, something that would really shake the news sphere as well and get gamers thinking. Or even better yet, grab something that's an exclusive from Xbox and bring it over and make it successful for VR. Again, they can't buy the Halo series.
That would be a nice one. I would like that. I would like that a lot.
Be so
Instead
cheeky.
Of trying to take
Steal
titles that would be on all platforms. Take one from Xbox, which is not on a VR platform. Like Gears of War.
Oh, I would love that so much. I'm a big Gears fan. But I've got a question for Guy. So, obviously you said, you wouldn't be for sale. What would be, in your opinion, the reason or to stay independent? Is it the creative control, or what do you think the benefit is of being independent?
Well, I don't think that Facebook buying game companies actually helps the industry. I think it does the opposite, because then you end up with the Sony owning a bunch of games and then Facebook owning a bunch of games, and then it's just the exclusive war that happens.
Yeah.
I think what they should do is they should really help indie developers, which are, most of them are struggling right now. So, just help them fund their game. And most of the indies are the ones creating the popular titles anyway.
Yeah.
So it's actually like a different strategy that you suggest is instead of buying the entire studio, fund the game to have an exclusive time on the platform for a certain
No. Well, I wouldn't say to have an exclusive, just help developers, and developers that you help are going to sell on your platform anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I thought to a certain degree Oculus were doing that anyway, or is that kind of dried up now?
Not really. It's dried up. From what I heard, they have like the Oculus Start thing, and once you have released the game, then you're totally on your own. They don't really help all that much. So
I see. But I suppose the flip coin of that is like, if you don't buy them up, like say if you don't buy Beat Games and then Sony buys them, then you're kind of screwed then. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like a double-edged sword there. Like especially with Beat Games, I think, that being the most prominent one. Like if Sony had bought them and they said like, this is just going to be a PlayStation exclusive.
That's a little bit what happened with Stormlands, right? Before Stormlands was like well done and released, Sony already acquired the studio.
And that game suffered from that. Like 100% that game suffered.
They
because
just
of
took
that
the
reason.
IP as well, right? So the IP goes to
and it was an Oculus-backed title, right?
True.
Yeah.
But as we said, like Sony didn't buy it for Stormland. I don't think.
No,
it's just
definitely
an
not.
extra.
Definitely not.
A nice.
But yeah, that's kind of interesting,
Honestly, I do agree. Like when I saw this announcement, I was shocked. I was like, this is not so good for the industry. And yeah, okay, of course, you have PlayStation that you motivate even more to do the same, but it's also in the PC VR scene that is kind of still trying to mature. Like we talked about this before. Like this is another step. Like how are other tech giants going to compete from the get-go when this is all getting bought up?
Well, they need to catch up, I think, is the answer from Facebook, because everyone seems to be lacking behind them at the moment. They're definitely the leaders in the pack in terms of like technology and their software stack.
And what Facebook is doing is very smart. They're very aggressive on buying studios because they're buying fast, and the way they do it is like they let them make some games for them to see if they're good, and then they buy them, because it's not like they just bought Ready at Dawn and like, okay, now you need to make VR games.
Of course,
they already made them before. It's just that, let's say if they do buy studios, as long as they let them come up with their own, let's say, idea of what a game should look like and what they want to make, then I think it's great. Because I've seen a couple of times where Oculus Studios is the one deciding what a studio needs to make, and then it turns out in something that isn't that good or not that exciting. So as long as you let the studio itself, the developers, come up with their own creative cool ideas, then I think it's good. But if Oculus Studio is getting too involved, it doesn't feel like the studio their own project anymore, and you can see that back in the gameplay and the story and everything. So
it certainly felt that way with Marvel Powers United. I know we both talked about it a lot when we were playing that game for like the 30 odd hours that we put into it together. But it definitely felt that way, because I think that the idea was way more ambitious in the beginning, but it is what we'll never find out, I guess.
No, but that was in the end like Oculus wanted to have a title that was a new game for people who just bought their headset as like a first title. They wanted to boost up the multiplayer thing, because that was lacking, to have people instantly in a lobby to play together, all the newcomers. That in the end didn't work out, because if you now play the game, then I don't think you can find someone else. Must be a miracle. But that came out of Oculus came with the idea, and Sensor made it. So yeah.
At the same time, I do think that Guy has a point in saying that there's a lot of like smaller development studios that are struggling. And we both know that Cloud had before Pistol Whip also was struggling in a way that their sales didn't do as well as they would have hoped. And of course, Pistol Whip turned a lot of that around. But it would have been a shame if for example, a studio like Cloud had would be forced to quit developing games for the virtual reality scene just because they don't have the funding, or they don't see. Oculus doesn't see them as a valued purchase yet, or something like that. So I do think it's important indeed to develop like on a lower level, like the indie developers who don't have the funds to finish maybe their very promising concepts. So it needs to be a little bit of a balance, I think, as well, between purchasing big studios and supporting the community that actually built this entire virtual reality scene in the beginning.
Okay, yeah, good point. So yeah, that is Ready at Dawn, acquired by Oculus. First bit of news this week. Next bit of news, which is kind of interesting and could sort of link directly to what we've just been talking about. And that is because, strangely enough, Beat Saber has been pulled from virtual reality arcades this week. So previously, if you owned a VR arcade, like friend of the show, Remarcus, for example, he runs his own little VR arcade here in England, you could buy a commercial license through partners such as Springboard or Exit Reality, which meant that you could charge your customers to play the game in your VR arcade. But it seems that this week, the commercial licensing page from the official Beat Saber website has been removed, and arcade owners have been told to stop offering the game to their customers. So this is kind of strange, right? Because right now we don't have an official statement from either Oculus or Beat Games. They haven't commented on the situation, so we don't have a reason why at this time. But hopefully they can come up with an alternative arrangement for arcades to continue using the game, because I would suspect it's probably one of the most popular titles that gets requested in a VR arcade, right? I would say it's probably the most well-known game.
I think it would be a huge mistake to remove this game entirely for arcades, because I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a clone that is going to do the same thing and is going to be available in those arcades. It just won't be Beat Saber anymore. It will be called something else.
Or it will just result into arcade owners just using a Steam version that is not licensed. But honestly, if I can make a guess on what this means, is that or the contract ended previously with Beat Games, and now Facebook is of course in charge and says we're not gonna extend it, so we're gonna create maybe our own license, so you can buy an arcade, because we're not talking only about Beat Saber, we're also talking about the machines that you can play those on. So if you want, as an arcade owner, you can buy a complete arcade cabinet that you can play Beat Saber on. It looks amazing. If you give it a try, it's great.
So do you think it's maybe they don't want you to be using their games that they own on other hardware, competitors' hardware? So they're well, if you want to play Beat Saber in your arcade, you need to use a Rift or a Quest.
Well, then what they could do is they could sell the arcade cabinet in combination with the Rift or the Quest, and sell it as a whole package. So you get a license, you get a cabinet, and you get their hardware. So everything is one. Because right now, I've seen 3D VRs getting used. I've seen a lot of mixed reality is usually the thing. Rifts, I've never really seen any Rifts. Of course, Quest now is great, because always having that cable on top was kind of tricky. So going wireless wouldn't be a bad idea. So that could be a reason. But I don't think they're gonna pull out completely. That's something I don't see happening. But that would mean that maybe there will be an arcade license for more than just Beat Saber. Like Lone Echo.
Well, I have to say that the chat has been very creative with creating new names for arcade owners, such as I've seen Beat Blade. I've seen, my own suggestion was Beat Saber, from Dwight Schrute's Farms. We have Feet Saber, Sheet Layer. we have a lot of suggestions, so don't worry, arcade owners.
I think Nathan's on the money here. I think that when it comes to hardware, oftentimes there's licensing with that. Sometimes there's a maintenance contract with it as well. And actually, it makes a lot of sense that that's coming to its end of life, and that they're planning again to do the hardware refresh. I think that's really on the mark.
Yeah, and right now we don't know what exactly is going on, because Skonek, who makes the arcades, has also not really said anything. I think this is more a B2B thing that is not, you're not going to see this in a blog post or anything. Yeah, but I think they're doing their own license. This will take a big hit for license platforms such as.
There are some people saying as well that it might be due to the rise of COVID, because getting into arcades is maybe a little bit harder. And I saw someone said, it was Onikazi. He said it just occurred to me that they may have stopped licensing for now, so they don't show huge losses due to the pandemic.
No, but that's not true, because arcades for the last few weeks have opened again, and there are enough, because VR is usually a social distancing thing anyway, in real life. So that's not a problem. A lot of arcades are open again, even here in my country, in China, but also America, because most people play, in different, and the arcade, the Beat Saber one, it's not a multiplayer or something. You just need to clean it very well. But this will mean that, Springboard will make a loss, because I'm sure that Beat Saber was a big part of their revenue.
So you think that, although it's gone for now, it will return, but probably in a different format or distribution platform that Oculus own themselves?
I don't know how much gone means, because if you are an arcade owner and you have one of those machines standing there, it's not like it's going to completely turn off. I think that the license, you can't buy any new licenses anymore. I think there will be a new system you need to hop over to. And I think Springboard will have to tell arcade owners, like, listen, you have to port over now to the new. Yeah. Might cost more money too, because,
Yeah, maybe. But that would suck if you've invested in an arcade and, these fancy big Beat Saber machines. Yeah, I'm sure they're not cheap. No, that would suck.
Cheap. Well, you mentioned when Marcus, he put a post out asking for like Beat Saber equivalents, because of course the need is still there. And I'll mention one in case there's any arcade owners listening. There was a predecessor, I suppose, to Beat Saber actually launching. There's a game called Beats Fever, which is like a whack-a-mole meets Beat Saber game with a pretty good range of music. So in case anyone else is in a predicament like Marcus, that game is currently £6 on the Steam summer sale. So if you need to buy bulk licenses or whatever, there you go.
But I think ultimately,
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, I think this hurts Oculus in the long term. Like, if it's going to be removed completely, for example, which, maybe we're suggesting that it's not, and they're going to come back with their own licensing options with hardware maybe tied to it. But, like, say if they remove it completely and it never comes back, I think that's bad for them, because ultimately, if you go to an arcade, a bit like when you used to go to an arcade as a kid back in the day, you play Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, you're like, I want to play this at home now. You play Beat Saber in an arcade and you're like, right, I want this, I need this, I'm going to go buy a headset, and invest in the hardware and buy it at home.
I actually am on the other spectrum. I don't think it is a licensing issue at all, because if it's a licensing issue, they probably would have released a statement around that. I think it's much more actually to do with the pandemic, since with virtual reality headsets, and it's the most popular game in an arcade, probably if you're playing VR, you need to put it on your face. And I don't think that with the current situation, especially in the US, where probably most of the arcades are located there, that is a good solution at the moment. So I think that the reason why they pulled the license for now is a rather temporary solution to deal with that.
I don't know, because I think these arcades must have, like, since the pandemic hit, they must have these strict cleaning methods in place, to make sure everything's sanitary and everything.
For a VR headset, you still have to put something on your face that has been worn.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
so funny enough,
but just that title though, like that's the thing I don't understand. Like, why would you think it would be a problem? Just that title? Would they be running away from kind of a lawsuit?
Because it's a title owned by Facebook.
Yeah, but I understand
Which
that.
other arcade titles are owned by Facebook?
But what are they running away from? Like, it's a force majeure event. It's going into.
It's that people, especially in the US, if people start saying, "Oh yes, but we have now COVID-19 because we went to this arcade and it's a Facebook published game."
I think since this podcast, if you're mentioning it, you let Facebook think about that. But I'm sure before that didn't even knew that would be a thing. But I don't think that's the reason, but it's a legit thing. Like, that's what a lot of companies have been doing, because no one wants to be, having their customers getting something and then refer to that one product. But it's funny that there's this machine. I forgot the name, but there's a machine you can put your headsets in. It's been made for headsets, and it cleans your whole. And that's even sold out now.
UV light. It uses UV light to kill them. Yeah.
There's a few of them. Yeah, there's a few of them, but the reason I was laughing there is there's only one product that I know that was damaged very badly by this whole thing. Have any of you had a Corona since this started?
I love Corona beers, yeah. But anyway.
That's what I mean. But like, what are their sales like right now? Jesus.
But I think it's an interesting theory anyway, all round. I think we've all got our own ideas, but of course we don't know the facts right now, but I'm sure that'll come out in the woodwork. Any sort of suggestions from you, Guy, around this sort of issue? Do you think? Any ideas?
I was reading in chat, it could be a music licensing issue, because the music industry likes to get fees for stuff, so it could be something related to that as well.
Yeah, that's also a very, very good theory as well. So that is the news that Beat Saber is being pulled from VR arcades around the world, and whether it will come back, we don't know yet, but if it does, we'll let you know. The next bit of news, which is huge news, is that Oculus are discontinuing the Oculus Go. So in a blog post this week, they said this. They said, since we launched Oculus Go 2 years ago, VR technology has improved at an incredible pace. Oculus Go's success first proved that the all-in-one form factor can deliver highly immersive experiences, and a year later, Oculus Quest redefined that category. The community response has been overwhelmingly positive, and you've told us loud and clear that 6 degrees of freedom feels like the future of VR. And that's why we're going all in and won't be shipping any more 3 degrees of freedom VR products. We'll end sales of Oculus Go headsets this year as we double down on improving our offerings for Quest and Rift. If you own an Oculus Go headset, you'll still be able to use it even after the sales of the Go end. We'll also continue to maintain the system software with bug fixes and security patches through 2022. That said, we won't be shipping new features for Oculus Go moving forward, and we'll no longer accept new Oculus Go apps or app updates into the store after December 4th, 2020.
And that's a really good point, that the app updates one. I saw Guy mention this and ask this question. Did you get a response to this app update thing? Because basically from Christmas this year, after that, no more updates to virtual desktop on Go, right?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I do constant updates, and since my app is the same on Go and on Quest, it's the same binaries. I essentially do updates, and then I'm working on Mac support, for example. People have been requesting that. I'm going to add that soon. I won't be able to maintain compatibility with the PC side of things, because then if I update the streamer, then I can't update the Go app, so I'm going to have to lock people with an older version. I know it's a nightmare. So for me, it's not great that they are blocking updates past December 2020.
But also for your the users, your customers in the end, right?
Yeah. I mean, I love updating the app, and I continue to update the Gear VR app, and I still have people every day that use it. I have something like 1,000 users every week that use the app on Go. So not being able to update it is it's a shame, really. So
yeah. Do you think you'll get Mac support in there before the updates end? Oh, okay.
That's coming very soon. So,
but the point here is, and this is the thing that I've always loved about your work, is that you tackle these really tough problems, how to do X, and the features that you deliver. You do that in such a way that's almost quiet. At least that's how it looks like to me. It's just silent for ages, and then all of a sudden, awesome feature drops, and to have any fork in that space, in that delivery channel. It really sucks. I'm a huge Go fan. I think it's great. When I discovered that you could do sim racing on a Go, and that's totally comfortable and runs great over 5G, it's just to have now a kind of a final fork in the road, a final stake in the heart of the Go. That's the toughest part, because obviously for you it would mean multiplying and adding this whole complexity that I'm sure is not worth your time.
Exactly.
Which makes it a forced decision.
They removed the Gear VR from recent SDKs, so I even had to scramble to kind of continue updating the Go, but not the Gear VR anyway. So I'm kind of stuck on an older SDK because I couldn't support the Gear VR. And now I'm sure they're going to do the same with the Quest, so that means that the upcoming Quest SDKs likely won't support the Go. So that means that I'll be it'll be impossible for me to keep supporting both at the same time. So not a lot of people do that. Not a lot of games share the binaries between the two, but it's something Carmack suggested, and when I heard him suggest it, I said, I'm going to do that. It makes sense, the same app, and it actually worked very well for me. So
yeah. But then I suppose as a sort of counterpoint of that is that these situations arise when one product's being
sure. And I understand that. I mean, I understand that they want to discontinue Go. I just wish that they allowed app updates to continue until the actual end of life of the product.
Sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It make more sense as well.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. But I think, particularly Nathan and I, and now Zim, he used the Go a lot. And, Nathan and I met up and we played a lot of Go games together. When we were creating content on the channel, we played Covert together. I actually visited him in the Netherlands and we played that game together, which was a lot of fun. And we also really enjoyed Oculus Rooms, and I think that is probably one of the things that the Go did.
That's a feature
really
we don't
well.
even have across all of the other Oculus platforms, and it's probably the best one out there.
Even worse, I think last year they just completely took it away.
They turned it off.
And this is why a lot of people were, they were using it to meet family and meet friends, and that was it. Instead they're going to take away more and more from the Go than
and I think a lot of people out there, maybe people that watch or listen to this show may not know that, you know, the social features on Go were the best out of all the platforms, and still probably, you know, Oculus Rooms, even today, if it did exist, which it doesn't sadly, it supersedes what is available currently on Rift and Quest. And that's because you could basically customize your own room on a Go. You could invite up to 3 other friends over, so 4 of you in a room together. You could watch videos on Facebook, you could listen to the radio, you could share pictures from your Facebook page, you could obviously chat together, but you could also, which was really, really neat, is gather around a little board game table, and you could play chess, you could play checkers, Monopoly,
Othello. I miss my Othello.
All these really lovely, like, social, casual games that you would, you know, play with your friends and family.
And they were the first one to have this integrated, like, avatar come into your room when you were going to play a game together.
That
so,
was
like,
next
okay,
level.
we're going to play
Next
this and
level.
this and this now. And
That's
then
a really good
all
point.
jump in
Yeah, that
together.
one. That
Yeah.
was
I
the
haven't
best.
seen that on... And that is like when you say virtual reality, playing together. That's
Yeah.
what everyone wants, right?
What's even weird is like that what you're telling us about right now is like something that rolled out straight off the bat, but then it never really got. They never updated. They never innovated on it because that was such a good start. Such a good start.
Yeah, and some of the reasoning behind that, I think, was because, like, you know, if you had multiplayer, you know, Oculus Rooms running, the Go would overheat. Like, it didn't deal very well with that sort of stress and would regularly overheat. And if it overheated, then that was it. You know, you had to restart the headset.
Yeah, because it's
which
passive
sucked.
cooling. Like
passive
basically
cooling.
they went for no fans, and which means it's like very quiet, perfect for watching movies late at night in bed, that type of thing. It's the only headset that I've run across that's really good for, let's say, a hospital patient or someone. It's small. It fits in a small shoebox, not even a shoebox size package, so it's very easy to travel with as well. So it's like mobile entertainment. I'll tell you the 2 things that blew me away with the Go when I got it. Firstly, the lenses. When you were, you know, had your CV1 or whatever as your daily driver, or even the original Vive, this was like, whoa, like lenses wise, it felt like VR 2.0, right? It was the clarity of those lenses, even today, really stands out.
Because the same lenses, just quickly, are used in the Rift S.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, they're
Same
fantastic.
screen,
I still
same
love
lens.
them.
Yeah.
No like buggery reflections or whatever else in there. The thing that really blew me away though, that caught me off guard by surprise, was the audio. And the audio solution, the fact that they were doing the piping down the sides audio. When I first put a Go on and you listen to it, and I know a lot of people now would probably maybe turn their nose up at it, but like the solution is just so sleek. And for those social experiences as well, the fact that they were able to do basically software-based noise cancellation and not have it sound terrible when you were in a social experience, and you really are, your ears are listening and the mic is listening to your voice, but there's not an echo problem. Like that was amazing. Like really good quality all around.
Yeah. And one thing I just want to, you know, expand on, which Rowdy touched on, was this kind of like social jump-off feature. And basically, we experienced this together. We were in a room together. We wanted to play Dead and Buried together. The system would automatically check to see if all the users had the game installed, and it would show you in a little checkbox if that was the case. And then if that was the case, then like you said, the ghost from Dead and Buried actually came into our Oculus room and greeted us there, said a few words, and then we all jumped off from Oculus rooms straight into Dead and Buried, into a Dead and Buried you know, multiplayer instance, which
So actually
it's so good.
We had the party generated in Oculus rooms, like everyone met up in a room, and then from that room we went straight into a game in the same party. We didn't have to connect in the game anymore. We just went straight in there, and that was a really, really good experience.
Yeah, best social features I've ever tried in VR.
I'm surprised
Definitely.
they didn't bring this to Quest when Quest released. It's so like
we backed them. We backed them.
We did.
It, but,
We did. And maybe, you know, they held off because they're like, well, this is going to be in Horizon in the future, and, you know, that's going to be a key feature of Horizon. We just don't know yet. But I really hope they do somehow, you know, revitalize that, because that was a really awesome, you know, social feature of the Go.
I think what's the most awesome is that the Go pretty much, like, you know, showed us like a glimpse of what standalone is like, right? Like I remember like the first time when I got it, I was like, hey, you know, Mike is waiting to play chess with me, and I just went downstairs just for fun to sit on the couch and play it there and just move around. I was like, wow, I can just now go upstairs again, and like same kind of what you had with the Quest, but then for the first time, we're like, wow, I can just show it up wherever I want. And I thought that the Go was also a very educational thing. I remember taking it with me to show people the Anne Frank experience.
Yes.
Of course, my brother has been working with loads of Go's to, work with like older people to take them back to places they went to in the past. I also know a few companies who used it to, as Zim mentioned, take it to hospitals and let them play multiplayer games together, because it's very easy to, understand, to have that controller in your hand. There aren't many buttons. It's very straightforward. Yeah. So personally, I still believe in 3DoF. It's good that Facebook has now said, like, okay, we're going to focus on 6DoF and let the rest of the market decide, because there's a big market for 3DoF. There are still a lot of new headsets coming out, and they get smaller and smaller too. And there is a lot of potential there. But it's good that they decided to just now focus. I don't agree with not doing any updates. I think that's a shame, a big shame. Also, because last year when we were at Connect, they roll out Oculus Business, let people invest their money into it, and then suddenly pull the plug. That doesn't build a relationship, and that also makes me wonder that they kind of did it last moment, or did they just decide to roll out Oculus Business anyways? And I don't know.
They're very aggressive. I actually have to say,
point.
since Facebook's taken the helm and these decisions are being made, their cycle of support is even less than Apple's. Like you find like a year and a half later, and they're pulling the rug out from under your feet. And
I was even surprised they didn't change the name to Oculus Gone.
Oculus Gone.
Oculus Gone.
Rowdy.
The only thing that I am not going to miss about the Go is the strap. That's all.
Yeah.
But
you don't like the strap, really?
No, I do not like the strap. No.
I like the strap.
I think.
Yeah, you do?
I think the thing is I'm happy as a gamer to say goodbye to 3DoF, but I do think it's a shame for business and education. I think it still has a life there, and I think, like you say, other companies out there will carry on with 3DoF for a little while longer yet.
I think with the hand tracking update on the Oculus Quest, I think that 6DoF is even business development so much better.
I'm just thinking here, okay, if you're lost in this conversation and you don't know what 3DoF and 6DoF mean, 3DoF is 3 degrees of freedom, which doesn't include positional tracking, and 6DoF includes positional tracking. So if I move my head laterally over towards my shoulders, or look under my desk, it will know where I am. Whereas with a Go, you move your head around, it doesn't follow you in the experience that you're in.
Head on a stick.
Head on a stick is a good analogy.
Yeah. So are you sad about the end of Oculus Go, Guy? I know this, virtual desktop was on the go,
Yeah, I mean, virtual desktop has been probably the most popular app on the Go since it launched. Like, Oculus doesn't release numbers, but whenever I check the top selling apps, I'm always like number 1, number 2 there.
That's awesome.
But I kind of understand, because my sales on Quest have been probably like 10 times what they are on Go. So they're not selling that many. So it's understandable, and I was expecting that to happen at some point. So.
Yeah,
true. I've seen some memes actually about that. There's this one, I don't know if we can show it on screen. It's like this comic, but it's like, the Quest has been so dominant and has been selling so many copies that of course the Go had to leave first, but I think the Rift S is going to be next. I'm sorry to say, but
I expect that as well.
I think you're absolutely right there, because today I was just curious, because obviously Phantom released last week. So again, I know it's not an accurate metric of sales numbers, but I was looking at the reviews for Phantom on both Rift S and Quest. So I think for Rift S, let me just quickly double check so I got the numbers right. But so right now on Rift S and for Rift, Phantom Covert Ops got 32 reviews, right? All good reviews, pretty much. So that's great for them. Let's see how many Quest reviews they got, because this is where you really realize the numbers are completely skewed. So for Phantom Covert Ops on Quest, 215 reviews. So I know it's not an accurate metric in terms of but it just gives you a good indication of the installation base is just way bigger on Quest, than any other platform.
Like what Nathan said, a kind of a negative point. The only thing on Go that I think I'm absolutely happy to bury is its power management and battery life. The original power management was terrible, and even to this day, you charge your Go, if it sits there for 2 days and you go pick it up, chances are
dead.
It's dead, which doesn't happen to the Quest. So they solve that with either software or whatever is on the CCB, on the board, in the headset. I'm so glad that they fixed that. I am very interested. I do believe the Go has to die off, right, for the next thing to come. I am going to be really interested if they decide to unify and answer this question, and then say do a mega, or like a substantial drop in price to the Quest would be something very attractive, because it's a well-known device, very well heralded. I think if they're introducing another device at a lower price point, I'd be quite surprised if they did that.
I don't think so.
I don't think they're going to.
Let's say if the Quest starts to drastically drop in a way we have never seen before, the next one is coming, and then you just gotta wait it out. But the Go and the Rift S will merge into the Quest, and then we get the new headset that does everything. And it's just one product, and it just go full in with that. They're trying to sell it to the limit, going beyond the stars. But still doesn't take away that I'm definitely going to miss the Go, even that I haven't used it in a while. I have to be honest, when I took it off the shelf, I had to dust it off. But I have very good memories of this headset, very specific memories, hanging out with Mike, doing fun stuff. And also, this is the headset that still has the best social features of all the headsets I tried. And it might be a simple headset that doesn't give you any 6DoF or whatever, but its social features, my God, those were epic, man.
And I do still hope and think that Oculus will still maintain the two headset kind of model that they have been pushing. I still think that we will have a pro version and like a consumer version.
I think it'll be under one brand, though. That would be my guess. Kind of like what iPhone's done. You have like two models of the same headset. One that's for the lower price point, and one's for the people who can,
I think
spend the extra
it would be smart
bucks
for them to release a Quest Pro. I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Well, think about it. If they had like the benchmark Quest and then a Quest Pro or some segmentation, they've been following Apple.
Have the same processing power, though, because for developers, if you have two versions, then it becomes a lot harder to optimize for each and all that. So I think if they do release a Pro, it would be for like additional features, or maybe they won't have the controllers on the basic one, or some. Probably not, but
it's a good point, because these are basically consoles now. They're the VR console. It's the VR Nintendo Switch equivalent.
We're talking about like a full-on version where you have like maybe headphones, more storage.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Kind of like how like PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro, I guess.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, but are you saying, Guy, that say like say they did make a Quest Pro, for example, and they used like the brand new Snapdragon like XR2 chip, for example? You won't get the old compatibility of old games on the new system, you don't think?
Yeah, you can play your old games, but then I don't know.
Developers would have to like split the development into like a new strand where you'd get the additional features.
I mean, it's just a nightmare then, because then you have to say, okay, maybe your game only works on Pro and not on the other one because it needs more power. And then it's going to make developers generally are lazy like me. They only want to target one thing, and then they just do a quick downport to something.
So it wouldn't just be a case of like if your game was on this new hardware, it would just run better?
Yeah, but you have the problem that some games will say, oh, it will only work on that one, and unless they put a rule in where they say if you develop for Quest, it has to work for both.
That's interesting.
How do you answer that hunger, right? I mean, once you're a developer and you're like, oh, I can go with that ceiling instead of this ceiling, like the higher one. Like I want to go after those features. I want to give that to my end user. You don't, and so you have to make that choice, which ends up in consumer confusion.
So what will happen to the store of the Go? Because how long is that going to be up? How long is it still going to be up and running? Because
they said they're going to maintain it up until 2022, but no new app submissions by the end of this year.
I think even like, as I said, like merging all the headsets together is going to be a thing, but also platforms. Because as you said, there's almost no review on a Phantom Covert apps anymore. So why not just throw everything together and have one store and no cross-buy and that kind of stuff? Just,
one store to rule them all. Well,
I'm still sad.
Yeah. Goodbye. I think we should all just sort of like wave goodbye.
1 minute of silence for the Oculus Go.
1 minute of silence.
I'm gonna cry when it goes.
Yeah. You served us well, but times have moved on. Sorry.
I'm still gonna keep mine. I don't know about you.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
So now let's talk about because something else was also announced during this blog post where they say goodbye to the Go because they also announced a new app distribution system for Oculus Quest for content that isn't going to be sold through the official store. Now, this is where historically we've used SideQuest in the past to install third-party apps, but now they're saying, well, we've got another option here. So this is what they said. We've heard that many developers and enthusiasts are looking for easier ways to distribute apps outside of the Oculus Store. We're excited to announce that in early 2021, we'll offer a new way for developers to distribute Quest apps. This will enable developers to share their apps to anyone with a Quest without having to be accepted into the Oculus Store and without the need for sideloading. So they're removing the requirement of sideloading. And this is something that I was going to go straight to Guy with, because I think you're probably the most, you're the best person probably to talk about this, because you've been in this situation where you've had an app on the official store, then you've had to also branch out to having like the app on SideQuest to unlock, features such as like streaming VR games to the Quest wirelessly. So what do you think about this, and what do you think it means potentially for the future?
I think it's a good thing, because for us, or for tech-savvy folks, it's very easy to sideload, right? Oh, you install drivers and you create a company and then you run it for a few things and it works. But for the majority of people, this is way too complicated. The majority of my support time, like I'd say probably a third of my time, is helping people sideload. Like that's what I do. It's crazy. So, and SideQuest is actually awesome because it made that so much easier, right? Because it was not like on the command line, you could just have like a nice graphical interface, and it simplified this a lot. So I think it's a good thing that Oculus is moving in that direction. The only drawback I see is I hope that people can still sell their apps or have a way to make money, because if indie developers are left out like they are now, most of them are left out of the Quest. They have, even though they can put their app on the Quest, they'll have no visibility whatsoever. So it'll be really hard to,
So do you think they're going to monetize the platform then?
I'm guessing not. What I'm thinking it would look like is what we have today on Go and Gear VR, which is, you can already do this today, which is to send a link to download an app that's not in the store, right?
Yeah.
It can distribute keys, right? So my guess, it will be something like that, but that unfortunately doesn't have any visibility for the developers. So it doesn't require side loading, but it's just like a...
So you're not saying we're gonna see like a little mini Kickstarter / Oculus Share where people can vote it up, or Steam Greenlight, and then it can finally get on the the store. That would be nice. I think that would be good, because then you get some pretty good support from everyone, and you get a
Oculus Share was awesome when it was available on PC, and I think having something similar would be the best avenue for.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to play like the devil's advocate, but do you think that this will give Oculus any reason to stop supporting SideQuesting at all, installing SideQuest?
No, I think it'll, like, it's hard to say. I don't want to jinx it for the SideQuest folks, but I kind of have a feeling it will kind of obsolete SideQuest in some way if they have like a share page where you can see all the available apps there and all that. If they only do like a key distribution method, then SideQuest will still be there. Actually, will make SideQuest easier, because you won't have to go through the whole company creation and ADB, stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's I just wondered if Oculus now has this own kind of platform where they allow this kind of stuff on, that they might make a decision, or maybe you don't think so, that they might make the decision of saying, look, we have this platform, this is the platform people should use, and any other platforms we're not going to make available anymore. So it's not even possible to...
that would be a dick move if they did that.
I know.
So.
But that's what I'm wondering with this kind of thing coming on the horizon. Like, is that something that people have considered? Or is that something that... Are there other advantages for having SideQuest on there if, like, pretty much some of the features go over to the Oculus platform as well?
I think from what I've seen from the SideQuest team that have tweeted stuff out, in response to this post, is that they're actually quite positive about it. And like Guy said, it will reduce some of the friction of the average user to actually maybe experiment with some of this stuff. So it might actually be more helpful to like the side loading community. But I do think it's important that the developers, even if they're making this experimental software, that they get paid for it. And I think, it should be a monetized system. Even if Oculus do take a small cut of it to a certain degree, I think it will help those indie devs out there get some money back from their development time. So hopefully that's the case. And I do like the idea that Nathan suggested, where you kind of have this like green lighting system where, you can upvote certain apps. And if they're good enough, or they reach a certain threshold, that they then become like an official app on the official store. That'd be really cool.
It could even be hidden within like the experimental tab, where you turn that on and then you get it in the store. I don't think it should be instantly accessible for new people, because I think you are responsible for the experience someone has. You don't want to throw them into something that is still work in progress. But it sounds like that Facebook has seen the success of SideQuest, how it's getting done, how much also sales they kind of made, and I'm happy that to hear at least that part that I'm happy about is that that it will become legal again, because I always had this problem where consumers were signing up as companies to be able to sideload. I always had a problem with that, because that made it super strange. And now I hope that they can at least give developers that, that portal to develop, and then the consumer something else that will also make them happy. Because I think this was even a clusterfuck for them to get like these strange companies that don't exist, or these weird scribbles of companies, because in the end, that's what it's for, sideloading is for developers. Exactly. Officially.
Also, I think it shows again like the massive influence that this podcast has on like the decisions from Facebook, of course. Only last week I installed SideQuest on my Oculus Quest, so it's clear that Oculus then made the decisions. Like if even Rowdy is doing it, we need to come up with something else.
Dude. Like I feel quite apprehensive about this news, because I think it's something that I just see as a market share control strategy from Facebook to basically say, I see this is growing. We originally cut this out from a QA perspective to give a clean, Quest run. But there's obviously a pool here, and if we don't tap this now and get control of this now, rein it in, then later it's going to be much harder to grab. So I think they're kind of trying to grab the train before it's bolted too far. What that means, I doubt it's going to be as freeform or wild, wild west as what SideQuest has allowed. I mean, they might be able to open up the gates to some extent, but it's just a decision away then from them, taking a cut of the earnings. And look, it's their device, and side loading. Eventually, this was kind of written on the walls, I feel. But I worry about the things breaking. I mean, being frank, Guy, the worst thing that I could see is the same thing that we were saying in the corridors of Oculus Connect 4 and 5 is like, I love your app, and I hope it stays unbroken, and I hope the Steam connection as well remains, because it's one of the best applications on the planet in VR right now. And I say that completely earnestly, because it's so flexible. And I hope that they do something to keep that alive, irrespective of what happens to SideQuest.
I mean, there's always this community that is gonna create their own way to get into it,
as long as they can.
As long as they can, exactly.
Well, yeah, as long as they can. Most things are technically hackable, right, nowadays. But yeah, if you can't get into it at all, then we're stuck with Facebook, and we just gotta obey the rules. But I feel like, with SideQuest and everything, it has been a very nice kind of like hippie culture of everything is possible. But I wouldn't be surprised that the rules are going to be strict for sure. But
think about it. Like, what did we have in the calendar? Like, we had share. That was, again, I'll use Nathan's words, hippie culture. Then we moved to this like early access thread, which was very poor, just in my opinion, right the way through from the content to the way it looked to where you found it on the store to visibility, all of that. Visible, not great, right? So we went from there down. And then now we're on SideQuest. The SideQuest is kind of reliving the Share dream, and even better than Share was. I would say it's more visible. It's straightforward. Even non-enthusiasts can handle it, and it's got a bunch of extras. What will this next thing be? Are we going to ride this roller coaster up a notch or down a notch? My thought is it's going to be kind of a parity point, But then the thing I'm concerned about really isn't near future. It's actually a year or two down the road when someone makes the decision to say, okay, well, we've got this and we can then make a change. And they've actually at that point got control of the whole environment. It's going to be very hard to step away from it.
So let's sort of wrap this up then by asking Guy one final question about this. So like personally, are you worried about this, or are you sort of like, whatever happens, I'm going to be okay?
I'm optimistic.
Okay.
But I always have doubts that it will work as we expect, because there's always something that's going to bother us. But you know, I'm optimistic. I hope Oculus will see the value in having lots of developers working on things and experimenting, and I think it's it adds a lot of value to the Quest. So
I think so too. Yeah, I hope the same thing. But of course, they didn't want to share any details about what they're actually planning. And, this isn't coming until early 2021. So maybe we'll find out a little bit more at Oculus Connect, but I don't think so, to be honest. I think it'll come probably later. But that is a new distribution system coming to Quest in the future that will make sideloading content potentially easier, but then could stifle creation in the long term, or, more problems could arise from it. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. So fingers crossed that either way that SideQuest survives, in some form.
At least we have something to talk about in the future on this podcast, right? When there's no news, we at least have this.
Exactly. So we're running out of time because we've got plenty to talk about still. So let's round up the news then this week with the Catwalk C, and this is the omnidirectional treadmill available now on Kickstarter. Now this campaign has done surprisingly well. I thought it wasn't going to do this well, but it's doing very well indeed. They've secured over $1 million in funding already, and this has just been available for a week already.
The first 24 hours they hit that, right?
Yeah, the campaign has got like 34 days left to go. They've already got $1 million in the bank, so they're doing very well.
Wait. Treadmill and more than $1 million on Kickstarter. I think that's just broken. Anyway, keep going.
Well, they did it in a very smart way. So let me just tell you how they did this, and it's very smart. So they launched the early bird. If you're familiar with Kickstarters, you have early bird deals. So the quicker you get in there and secure your sort of backing, you get it at a better price. So they started the pricing at $6.99 for early bird backers. And then what they did was they limited the supply, and then when the initial supply of $6.99 backers ended, they bumped up to $7.99, then $8.99, and now all those early bird deals are sold out. So now if you want to back one of these omnidirectional treadmills, you have to back $999.
Jesus, mother of Mary, Jesus.
But also, to be fair to them, this is the first time we've seen a consumer-focused VR treadmill. Like the Omni that was before it was more sort of...
They originally all started out very consumer-focused. The Omni was very consumer-focused in the beginning, that they did their Kickstarter, for sure.
Their marketing was for sure.
But also, I don't think they were at this price. I think it was way more expensive. I don't remember exactly the numbers, but I think it was way more expensive than $1,000. You'll have to have a look and see if
I remember correctly. I think it was.
Okay. So still a little bit less, but snapping one up for $6.99. But I was surprised that there's a market for this, particularly in the consumer land. I thought VR arcades might snap these up.
Just to quickly comment on the price for the Virtuix Omni, it was $249 for a DIY kit. So if you would put it together yourself, it was $249.
Yeah, because I remember, what was it?
Early bird price was $249.
There was a guy, Houston VR or something. He drove with a truck down to Texas to pick it up and assembled it.
What about assembled? What's the price for assembled? Do you know? Do you have that there?
I can look that up.
Yeah, look it up. I'd be interested to know. But basically now, if you want one of these Catwalk C omnidirectional treadmills, you have to pay $999, and they state that you should get your treadmill by the end of this year. Although Kickstarters tend to be very ambitious with the delivery dates.
Plus,
so take that with a pinch of salt.
Launching it in a pandemic too, so
yeah. Go on, Rowdy. What's the price?
The all-in Omni all-in. So you get the Omni plus the Omni rack and the exclusive T-shirt, a signed poster, and a mini Omni for $539.
So it was way cheaper.
Way cheaper.
I did not expect that at all.
And you get a shirt too, man.
Yeah, I really think...
Where's our shirt, Catwalk? Seriously.
Yeah, where's our shirt?
I'm really curious. Like, we're talking about consumers backing this thing on Kickstarter. Like, it's got to be 2 or 3 months of being indoors, being like, I can't go anywhere. I've got space. Just give me a treadmill, and I can, play games and get exercise.
What they are saying, how they differentiate themselves between the Omni, for example, is they're saying that this is the most compact omnidirectional treadmill that has been on the market so far.
That's important. That's very important.
And that's what they're saying. Now, Nathy, obviously, he's had feet-on experience with this thing. So maybe we should pass it over to the expert. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about your experience, because you went to visit Catwalk directly at their base in China, right?
Yeah.
Before the pandemic hit, so don't worry. He was the one that started all this, but he was all right when he was there.
I started it.
Yeah.
I was the one that started in Europe, right? Oh,
yeah.
True. No, so my new job title is now a treadmill expert, right?
Yes.
I did.
Yes.
I did try different ones. I did try the VirtuX Omni. I did try the Virtualizer. I think that's a German company. I think this is also one of the newest ones. And then I tried the Catwalk C.
And the Infinideck.
And
you tried?
And also that one, yes. But that was that one is not available for consumers or well, I don't know if they sell it to businesses, but that's a total different league, okay?
Yeah, it is.
We should talk about it sometimes, because I think it's an awesome thing that shows us the future. So just talking about the Kickstarter, I was also surprised, to be honest, that it was selling out so quickly. I think there have been a lot of arcades who just bought it in bulk. There were also consumers buying one. And then you, of course, have, I think, like health and army, businesses also buying in. So we're talking about like some of them, they buy like 20 of those. You know what I mean? So I think the number is very high, but that's not just consumers. I think the consumer part is actually lower. And I think the majority is like businesses buying these. Because for arcades, it's also interesting, because these, as you said, are the smallest ones on the market right now, and also the cheapest. So first of all, we spoke on this podcast about treadmills before.
Yes.
Rowdy did a whole thing about it. It's on the channel under clips. I would definitely watch it, because it still stands as a very informative, video about why treadmills are not necessarily simulating how we walk in real life. And that was the same for me with the Catwalk C and all the other treadmills that I tried. It does not simulate how you walk in real life. It's like you learn to walk in a new and funky way, especially the first time you do it. For some people, that means like a long learning curve, a steep one. For others, it might take 2 days, if you're like, play on it for hours and hours and you keep trying, I'm sure you can get into it. And when I was at the office, they had a guy there who was showing us how it worked. He, of course, tests treadmill in a very intense way. It's also his job. He was very good at it, but at least it showed that it is possible to master a treadmill to a certain degree and run on it and crouch on it and turn around, walk backwards, strafe, everything you want when you play VR games. Then I tried it myself. As I said, I have never been a big fan of treadmills so far. So I already had an idea of what it was going to be like. And for a part, it did confirm that. But what I was actually pretty impressed by is, for the first time, I got to dive into the software of these treadmills. And they showed that they are able, with, like, let's say, machine learning, to make it more accurate, make it smarter, make it work better with every game. It's kind of like what Oculus does with hand tracking. Like, the more people use it across the board, the more it will learn how people, move on it, and we'll be able to convert that to every and each game. And so I played 3 games. I played Half-Life Alyx. I played Vertigo 2, the demo, and I played The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners. Saints and Sinners wasn't a great success, because that was a very early build. Because when I tried it, it wasn't even out yet. I just got my access, and they were working on it while we were trying it on the treadmill. So that didn't really, that wasn't a good test. But Vertigo 2, definitely. Half-Life Alyx was interesting too. Let me just start with Half-Life Alyx. So as you guys may know, if you play Half-Life Alyx, there's just one walking speed. You can't, run. It was like fast walking in Half-Life. I don't know how to say it. So in that one, it was interesting to see how it just manages that one speed and attaches to it. I was very surprised that it worked so well. And while I was trying it, they were able to also tweak it on the computer, because they were like engineers sitting there and constantly changing the numbers and stuff. But with Vertigo 2, an actual game that is, supporting different ways of locomotion, supports different speeds, it has like a speed curve that is different to Half-Life Alyx. That was very challenging, and you could really see that a treadmill like this works, but also doesn't. You know, it has ups and downs. But the more they messed around with software, the better it got. But it wasn't perfect. It was always kind of off, you know, where you were running or walking and then you stopped and then there was a small delay, or where you felt kind of restricted in a sense, where it's like, it's not on point. I'm walking this fast, but in the game it doesn't match. And in that sense, like I got motion sick sometimes, where the walking speed in game with how you move in real life doesn't match. And in your brain, that doesn't make any sense, right?
And that's interesting because they state that this is like almost a cure for motion sickness, that using a treadmill will solve that problem.
Well, yes, if it's calibrated right. If it's calibrated right, then I can confirm it works very well and you're immersed and it's a good workout and it's great. But if it's not on point, then you get really sick. And something they didn't say on their Kickstarter, and that's the biggest downside of treadmills. Okay, so if you walk in a flat game, it's fine, right? But if you go up a staircase or you go downhill, it feels like you're floating or something. It's super strange. So as long as you play Pavlov or Onward and it's sort of flat, it's fine. It's fine. But if there are height differences, dude, it feels like you're mentally or physically running through your environment, through your objects. And that again, like results into motion sickness depending on how strong your VR legs are, but it will never be natural. And this is something that every treadmill has, because I don't know if you guys know any treadmill that has like moves you up and down or something. Even the Infinite deck doesn't have that, but that's a problem. And of course, the early adopters who are buying into this, they are willing to kind of deal with that because there is nothing else in the market that will.
There's only one that does the staircase motion. I've seen it, but it was a prototype, and it had a kind of.
You mean the one where they step onto different little?
Yeah.
Yes, it steps onto different segments,
product.
but it's not a consumer product. Exactly. Everything else is flat that I know, or a bucket.
And you also have the ones with the modules that move to the back and the front the entire time.
Yeah, but again, that's not a consumer product, right? But I think the thing is, like, the problem has been that I've seen a lot of people hyping this up. Like, a lot of people, like, going crazy over this. Like, oh my God, this is Ready Player One. This is going to be amazing.
Well, you know, that's the problem with treadmills, as you say, like Ready Player One. Like, from the outside, it's a very appealing product. It's easy to sell. If we make a treadmill right now, Mike, and we slap our name on it, everyone is going to buy it because, wow, look at this treadmill. From the outside, it looks amazing. But trying it is a total different story.
And I think I totally agree with you there, because I was very hyped about treadmills right up until the point that I actually tried one. And that was when I tried the Omni Gamescom like 2 years ago. And ever since then, I've just been like, I'm not interested in VR treadmills at all. So when this kind of resurfaced and we're kind of seeing this resurgence of this, because we were around when the Omni was announced as well, that I was surprised that it got backed so heavily. But like I think you said, I think arcades are snapping them up cheap.
I'll give them this though. Like, I do think it's an interesting device. I do think that a lot of the things that they do add are steps in the right direction. Like, I've seen that they've included, well, not specifically the features for like walking specifically, because I still stick by my point that I don't think that like a slide-on treadmill is any kind of way that you can simulate walking with. But I do like the features that they add to make it a better use for consumers. Like, for example, they have a cruise mode on there where you need to kind of tap on somewhere and it will like move forward. They have
pretty sure the Omni had that as well. Yeah, but I mean, they're advertising these kind of features as at the beginning. They have ways of crouching. You can't go prone, of course, so I mean, you just have to go crouching. They support jumping. So like, I see this more as a device where you can like stand in one location and then move as such instead of using your thumbsticks. But I don't see it as a walking simulator. I think that's fun for a little while, but I still don't see that really happening.
Honestly, the cruise mode, I wasn't very interested in that, because if you want cruise mode, just use your thumbstick.
Exactly.
Why do you buy a treadmill for but it's nice it's there, because if you only have to walk and you're forced to do that all the time, then I think what we're talking about here is that it gets branded as consumer, but it is still very experimental. It's consumer/early adopter we're talking about.
I would say that
to invest money into something that might be the future, that might be the first version of something. But this is not for consumer.
I am so relieved. I gotta say, I am so relieved that we didn't have to go through a podcast where Nathan was trying to convince me that treadmills were worth my time and money. Because I think by design, I am not interested in any treadmill solution. You are not, and this is Rowdy made those great points in the clip that Nathan mentioned. Like, you're not going to fix that problem until the solution changes enormously, and probably to the point where we're getting that little slip surgery and getting direct interface with the brain. That's not going to fix it.
Yeah, but the reason why they do it this way right now is because this is the only affordable way to sell something similar. Because Infinite Deck, we're not there yet. So this is the cheapest alternative you can get and still kind of have the feeling you're walking in VR, but on a total different way. Because the Infinite Deck gets way closer to how it really feels like when you're walking.
But again, that height problem.
Like I said in that clip as well, like I don't think that these kind of walking simulators will work, but I do think that these kind of devices are necessary to be developed and to be researched, because that's the only way that we get to an ultimate solution, including the staircases, including the walking simulators. So I do support these developers into making a device, but I do hope that people realize that what they're getting will not be that ultimate solution.
Yeah, and I think that's key to understand. And someone asked in the chat, is the Catwalk compatible with the Quest? Well, it's only compatible with PC VR headsets right now, so you could use a Quest with Link.
With Link, yes.
But also you need to bear in mind that you need to come up with some sort of cable management system, because that isn't included in the bundle. That comes with it now? Okay,
now because they sold so much, you're like, what, screw it, let's just...
that's good to know.
That's why I'm happy that I went and that I was able to make a video, because if people are hyping this stuff up, you get the wrong idea. Yeah. And you can hype it up for the early adopters, like, wow, you get the opportunity to, get a sense of what this could be in the future.
Yeah.
That's great. But everyone who's an influencer, everyone who talks about this needs to understand that you're responsible for people's experience in VR. And if someone buys a treadmill and they do it based on some good feedback and based on some opinions that are fair, because I could have made a video and tell everyone like, oh yeah, treadmill, ready, play one. Oh, look at me, I'm wait, what, whoa, VR chat, whoa, like this, whatever. The thing is, would have worked. Everyone would have believed me, okay? And it would be good for me because, I approve treadmills, here we go. But the thing is,
I wouldn't believe
it's not yet. It's not yet. No, but there are enough people who do believe that kind of stuff.
I agree with your point.
And that's not only with treadmills, that's also with haptic suits, that's with gloves, that's with everything. You need to make people aware who this is for, what you're getting into, what the experience is like, what are the ups, what are the downs. But what I'm saying here is that I do believe that with software, they are able to make it way better than it ever was. And I've seen it, and I think it's going to be very interesting how far they can update this treadmill with software updates. So for me, it was more like, wow, software is driving a treadmill in a different way than I ever thought.
I think it needs support from the actual game developers to be good, because right now the only thing it's simulating is a thumbstick up or thumbstick right, left, right? Yeah. And you can't do anything really good or immersive with that. So it will be a gimmick until game developers add support for that. But then go ask a developer to add support for a peripheral that maybe 100, 200 people will have, and
Exactly. And to that point, if there's a company that is doing that really greatly, it's ProTube, of course, with their ForceTube. They have actual developers like Pavlov and contractors and onward that use those kind of hardware devices in order to implement it into their game. And the experience you get then is mind-blowing.
But still, it's gotta end up at the platform. It's got to end up at the platform level. If it doesn't, you're just going to end up drawing a little circle on the calendar of 10 games, 20 games, 30 games that do that great support. So it needs to be at the platform.
So the software already comes pre-calibrated with titles. I think on their Kickstarter is more information about that. But having the bigger ones on board, I don't know if that's going to happen. But I totally agree. The developers need to be involved to make it perfect. But I'm sure there are a lot of developers who run companies that also tried treadmills and are also not very sold on the idea. So that like if CAT uses the money that they get not only to produce them, but also to, maybe invest into developers to do so, and then you get somewhere. But yeah, that's very important. You need the games.
Got a question for Nathan on this, just on the name, because Catwalk C is kind of an odd name. Does the C stand for cup because it's one of these slippery cup treadmills, or do you know what that actually stands for?
I have no idea. I think I told them that I wasn't fond of the name because the previous one was called Catwalk Mini. This one could have been called the Catwalk Mini actually, but I don't know why they. I think they were kind of hinting towards chipsets and stuff like that. But I don't know. Like the Chinese have a very interesting view on prototype names and stuff. Like they could have gone for Catwalk Neo or whatever,
Yeah. Okay.
But I think the key here is talking about like products that have done it well. I think Haptics are a product that was very, very niche, and then they started implementing game support, and I think they've really nailed it now at this point. But talking about treadmills, when I tried it, you have to wear the specialist shoes. It's the same deal with the Catwalk, by the way. You need these special shoes, that reduce the friction when you put your foot down. But it's like almost being Bambi on ice. Your feet really slip around.
Feels a bit like shuffling.
You've got to learn how to walk again, basically, and it doesn't feel natural. Yeah, it doesn't feel natural at all. And I think the biggest problem we've seen is that people are hyping up that never even tried a treadmill in the first place.
But no one ever says like that a treadmill is not simulating. Like they always sell it as it simulates how you walk. That's not true. It's just a total new way of doing it that is interesting, but it's not how you usually walk on the side.
Yeah. So I think like Rowdy said, I think it's good that there's companies out there that are trying this stuff. But I just think, if you're a consumer and you're looking at this thinking it's going to be the next revolutionary piece of hardware to add to your VR gaming room, I would be a little bit skeptical about it. That's all I'd say.
The only problem that that I see in the future, and that's what I've seen with other treadmills, is that you have people investing a lot of money into this. Then they, for example, decide to make a video on YouTube where they decide to share their thoughts on Reddit or stuff like that. But they bought so heavily into this that they are willing to defend it with their lives and are not telling the whole story. And that will result again into a new wave of people that should not be buying this right now. Yeah. And that, as I said, like to everyone, who is going to get a treadmill or already owns one, you are really like, you're responsible for how people, are going to jump into VR. It's very easily to tell the wrong thing. It's just like, tell the whole story.
Yeah. When I tried one, actually,
money, but
When I tried one, I actually preferred the Cyber Shoes, and even that isn't a particularly great product because I thought, well, at least Cyber Shoes is less money. You can easily tuck it away somewhere. It gives you, it gives you a similar sensation in that it doesn't feel natural, but it's just a different way of feeling that also doesn't feel natural.
The best thing that you can try, in my opinion, right now is what Sony did, where you walk on the spot. Yeah. That's the thing that I really like, and that's something that works, pretty well. But yeah, as I said, this is for early adopters. It's good to see that people are investing into it because this, as Rowdy said, will result into, new plans. I'm very curious if Cat is able to, deliver this during these, hard times. I do have to give them props for the marketing. They were very, communication-wise, very clear. The videos were good. But I think that's also important because you're selling a treadmill. And that's the same with Haptics. It all looks super fancy because it's also experimental. So with the marketing, you can really boost up the,
Well, wish them the best of luck with it. They've obviously done something right, getting this number so far. But we're sort of running out of time a little bit. So is there anything you wanted to add, Zim?
Just super fast. Is there a side quest app that works with a real treadmill? Because that would be more attractive to me than anything else.
Not on Quest, no. Okay. But the thing is with Quest, you could take it outside on a cloudy day and just do it outside, and that'll feel way better. Yeah. Just like,
are you recommending people run around with their Quest on outside?
On a cloudy day, you can do it. Sure, I've tried it before, and it feels way more natural than doing it on a treadmill.
Highway, you mean next to the highway?
Not on a highway.
No, but there's not an app that you can use. Like I haven't seen yet.
You can run off in boundaries, like in fast travel games and stuff like that. We saw with like Yugon Virtual, who did that. Where you ran on a football field
game,
with
something fun to do.
Playing. Was it Apex Construct? He did that.
Yeah.
You could do that.
There's the Beat Saber levels, right?
Than using a treadmill. Be cheaper as well. Just get someone to spot you. Anyway, let's move away from treadmills. We're all very skeptical of them. If Catwalk can change our minds ultimately, then hats off to them. But at the moment, like all the other treadmills, we're very, very skeptical. So take that, as it is. So our hot topic this week is obviously talking to our special guest, Guy Godin, creator of Virtual Desktop, and I thought we would sort of open it up to the chat as well. So if you've got a question about Virtual Desktop on any of the platforms, if you're a fan of it, or you want to ask some questions, then go ahead and we can read some of them out after the sort of little chat that we have. But let's sort of start off then, Guy, with telling us a bit about your background prior to getting into VR maybe, and that sort of like that moment where you were like, okay, VR is the answer, I'm sold on that, let's go full time on this, and this is going to be the rest of my life now. How did that all happen?
Well, I started in VR in 2014. At the time I was working part-time, and I had lots of free time, so I saw the Kickstarter and I didn't really pick up on it. Only a year later, when Facebook decided to buy Oculus, I was like, okay, that's interesting, maybe I should check it out. So I got a DK1 and then I started experimenting with it, and I was seeing the guys from Tested, Will Smith, and I was seeing him playing Euro Truck Simulator, and he had to like take off his headset and put it back, and he was like trying to use his computer through it, closing one eye, and I was like, this is horrible. Why? It's split to the computer. Why can't you just see your computer screen? And so that's when I decided to work on something that lets you see your screen in VR.
Nice. And did you have any experience with like similar apps or similar concepts prior to this, or was it just a case of, right, this is a problem, let's go solve it?
Yeah, exactly. Like I worked in the video game industry as a tool engineer. So I did things like level editors, texture management tools, and things to help artists get art into games. So I didn't really have any game engine experience or any VR or anything like that. So I just started learning on my own and reading the SDK. The Oculus did a really good job at giving good documentation for the SDK. So that's where I started, and
wow,
it just grew from there.
And what about your like education prior to like getting into the gaming industry? Like what say there's a budding app creator out there and they want a sort of career path into sort of developing apps for games or maybe VR games. Like what sort of education did you have like leading up to your employment into the games industry?
I did a bachelor's degree in computer engineering. But I gotta say that almost none of this is quite useful for the gaming industry, because they teach you really old technologies that are no longer used, or they teach you like so maybe I use 10% of what I've learned in college, really. So the rest is stuff you learn on your own. So doing side projects outside of school hours, and it's probably what I'd recommend. Just learn on your own. You have the internet, anybody can really learn. So
yeah,
that's really interesting. So like that was how like the idea and the concept of Virtual Desktop was kind of born. And then how many people have worked on Virtual Desktop like from its inception?
I've been mostly the only person working full time. I have contractors to help with art and some programming as well. But we're probably a team of 3 or 4. But yeah, I want to keep it small. I don't want to grow it into like a business and have venture capitalists in there and just to mess with the priorities of the app and all that. I listen to what the users want and I implement it, and so far it's been working great. So
yeah, and you've got a really like passionate community following as well. Like whenever there's Virtual Desktop stuff posted, like when you recently posted about the hand tracking update, it always gets like shared on like Reddit and everything else, and people are really, really happy that these new features are coming to the platform. It must be great to have that sort of passionate community behind the app as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like if it wasn't for the folks on Reddit and Discord and all that, like I wouldn't be here. So it's because of people. Like I don't buy any promotion, or I don't have ads anywhere. So it's amazing that the community is able to support me that way. So I'm really thankful for them.
Yeah, and in terms of like obviously you started off launching the app on Steam VR, and then moving to the Oculus Go like we discussed earlier. Like. Yeah. Was that the kind of like one of the biggest challenges you faced as a developer, is moving it to a mobile platform, or was there other problems that were trickier to overcome?
No, because unlike other similar apps, I didn't want to shoehorn the PC version of the app into a mobile version. I didn't want to do that. So I really started from scratch with the mobile version. Developing on Android is very different than Windows. Different APIs, different constraints for memory, for GPU and all that. So I started from scratch, and I had a good idea of what I wanted to do, but I started the app 3 years ago when I decided to go full time. So my PC app was doing well. I decided, okay, let me work on a mobile version for Go and Gear VR, and I was just like experimenting, and then it actually went well. It like there were some hiccups here and there, but for the most part, the development went pretty well. So.
Yeah, like it's a super solid app. Like, you know, Zim has used the Go version, you know, to play sim racing, you know, with a steering wheel set up using Steam VR, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. Have you come across any other sort of like really unique or interesting use cases from the community of using your app in a way that you maybe never even anticipated?
Yeah, I mean, when I first had the app, people were asking, oh, it wouldn't be nice if you could watch 3D movies. And at the time, you know, there was no apps that did 3D movies. It's like, okay, I'll just split the image in half, and then whatever is on the left side, I'll send to the left eye, and what's on the right side, I'll send to the right eye. And then people are like, oh, actually, it's pretty cool. 3D is actually awesome. And then like a lot of other apps started to incorporate 3D movies into their apps because it was popular. So most of the features that I have today on the PC app were all suggestions from the community. People were like, oh, it'd be nice if you could play 360 videos and not have to switch apps and all that. So I added a 360 video player, I added 360 photos, and it just streamlines everything because it's all in one app and you don't have to take the headset off.
I think that makes you like you're really standing out as a developer and being very unique in the way where, you know, you use these short lines to develop. You know, what does the community want, and it ends up with you straight away. Well, with others, it's like, oh, we gotta, you know, look at their budget, and we gotta do this and that, and you're kind of like, you know, you go to the to the baker or something, like, hey, can you maybe make this for me? And it's like, yeah, sure, let's see how it turns out, you know. And I think that's awesome, and that makes, you know, virtual desktop such a, you know, innovative app.
Like the idea to stream VR games for the mobile version, initially I hadn't planned. Like I saw there was the AL VR that was there, and then literally everyone asked in the YouTube video and all that, hey, can you stream VR games? And I had to say, no, you can't. No, you can't. And then I realized, well, maybe I should look into it, see, you know, what can I do? What can I improve from what's there? And then since then, you know, it's the most popular feature. Some folks even on Quest don't realize that you can see your desktop and watch movies and do other things. Right? They only see the VR streaming feature.
And that was kind of interesting because it launched as a feature, right? And then kind of had to be segmented. And maybe you can talk a little bit about that because that's kind of an interesting story.
Yeah, so I was working on it during the last few months before Quest released, and I think it was like 2 weeks after Quest release, I had, you know, something kind of working, so I just put it in, and I was hoping people would discover it and all that. And then some people found out about it. Oh, you can just launch Steam and it works, and then it kind of exploded from there, and lots of people started using it and were happy. It was not great at the time. It was a bit laggy, and the controllers had more latency than that and all that. And then Oculus, you know, got aware of it, and they asked me to remove the feature from the official store app, and that was.
Did they ask that nicely, or was that more like a takedown request?
Yeah, it was more like a takedown request. It wasn't. Yeah, I was. You know, I worked on this for like 4 or 5 months, and I was kind of devastated that I spent all this time and it couldn't be used. But then SideQuest came around. I was like, oh, I could actually put the feature on there, and you know.
But what was that? Was that like a communication thing, or was that just, you know, you just follow up the rules and you just develop what you're allowed to develop and that's it? Like how?
I never had to ask if I'm allowed to develop anything, right? I just work on whatever people ask.
Yeah.
And
So you could
that's
just-
what.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask a question here. So this is the thing about you that I find the most interesting, Guy, is that you've got, as I said before, you've got this kind of tenacious nature about you where you just go feature and feature and feature. And sometimes then, kind of like what happened to, I don't know, Google Labs, sometimes you get to this like snowball of things and it's like you totally miss the great stuff that's coming out. How do people stay informed with your updates, and are there any like specific things that you've worked on, developed, and released that maybe your virtual desktop users don't know about but should know about?
Yeah, mostly on the PC side, because Oculus like released their own Oculus desktop, right? So it kind of killed my app there on their store. Like it's saying like the sales are horrible there, right? They're like a 20th of what I have on Quest. So, and the thing is, people don't see all the other features it has, because the desktop app has a ton of stuff. Like I said, video player, 360 photos. It has positional audio when you're in theaters. You can have like a 7.1 surround sound. Like I spent a lot of time on audio, and nobody notices that. Like they just put in a review to give you 1 star. So it's the same as the Oculus one. It's, well, no, it actually does a lot more things. It's harder to sell that version now today because Steam has their own built-in viewer and Oculus has their own app, and Oculus even named their Oculus desktop. They named it Virtual Desktop, just to add insult to injury. So, so it's a support nightmare for that in that case. Yeah.
By the way, for the chat, maybe I'm noting down the questions that people are asking. So if they want to ask more questions, there are already a lot of questions. So we might need to keep that a little bit in mind for
sure. I've just got one more question before we move on to the chat questions, because a lot of people talk about like the performance between like using the official Oculus Link cable, and in some instances people say, well, actually Virtual Desktop performs better. And is that a bandwidth restriction issue when using the official Link cable compared to using Virtual Desktop?
I think most of the issue is that the Oculus runtime will use async space warp, and so ASW on the PC side, and that kind of adds a bit of overhead. I can't speak specific to their implementation because it's a black box, right? But I know that Virtual Desktop tends to perform a lot better for games, even though it renders at a slightly higher resolution than Link right now. So people that have a lower end GPUs will have better performance with Virtual Desktop in that regard. So.
Really interesting. And go for it. Let's open it up to the chat and sort of fire away with some of their questions.
All right. So we had ProTube actually asking if you will make virtual reality desktop available on other HMDs, like for example the Pico Neo.
Some people ask that. Maybe I might look into it, but it's such a small market that like the development time would be quite long, because unlike most other games out there, I develop on top of the native SDKs. So the mobile SDK for the Quest. So if I need to support a new headset, it's not just like checking a box and then adjusting a few things. It's like I have to implement the entire SDK, and then so it's probably something like 6 months of work at least. So I don't think I'm going to do that right now, because I still have a lot of features I want to work on and improve the app for Quest, because there's so many users on Quest that.
Also, if there are any questions that you wish not to comment on, feel free to say so. Don't feel obliged to to comment on like the maybe more specific ones. We have, for example, this one. We have Jamie Cruz asking, has Oculus asked for your assistance or IDs for using Link without the cable?
No, they haven't. I don't think they will. But I'm pretty sure that they're working on a wireless feature, because they're probably seeing that Virtual Desktop is so popular that people don't like cables. So I'm sure they're working on their own solution at some point. So I wouldn't be surprised if they announce something at OC7. Either they do it through Wi-Fi, which maybe not. They might, like some people have hinted at it, they might do their own wireless dongle and then something like that. But I'm sure at some point from pressure, they're going to have to say like 8 months later, oh, it also works on Wi-Fi. You don't need to buy that thing.
It's a little odd, like, because like you show that it's possible and it works very well. So you would think they would reach out to you to say like, hey, listen, we're working on this too. Maybe you can help us out a little bit and get some, feedback from their, actual developer who is, making something on their platform. But instead, you're going to be surprised, and you might see some stuff that has been like mildly inspired by your app. So
I'm kind of used to that, because on the PC side, right, the same thing happened. They one Oculus Connect, they just announced Oculus Desktop and Oculus Dash with the desktop integration. So I was like, crap.
I remember seeing your face after that. That was pretty special.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of expecting the same thing here. I just hope that they don't have the desktop component of it, where you can if they duplicate that, it's going to be the second time that my app gets essentially copied and brought into the platform. That would just suck. So I hope.
But we've seen historically that even communication internally at Facebook between departments isn't particularly great. So I can understand why it wouldn't be even externally that good either. So, yeah.
Next is D1360VR asking, now that you've mainly focused on Quest, what are the features that you're working on for PC VR, Steam/Oculus version of Virtual Desktop?
I have a few things on my list for PC, but I have to be honest, is most of my time is really spent on Quest because that's where the excitement is. That's where, people who use the app are. Like on PC, yes, they use it, but it doesn't have the same
like community around it.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have a lot of energy behind,
That's understandable.
Adding new features and stuff. So.
Then we have a gaming science teacher asking, what was your reaction to the PC VR streaming feature seemingly overtaking the original use case for virtual desktop? Okay. Did you ever expect that to happen?
Yeah, I kind of had like an insight that they would release something like that. So I was expecting it. I actually understand that they can develop something better because they have access to everything, or they have access to the PC runtime, and so they could, in theory, do a better job than me because they have all these people and engineers working there. So, but when I saw how it was implemented, I was like, oh no, I'm sure I can do better, and that's what convinced me to keep iterating on the feature and adding like the ability to play Rift games, for example, and all that. So.
Yeah.
There's a recent addition to the desktop PC app where you can with the desktop streamer you can pick up on even the Oculus Home games, which wasn't. Yeah. I don't think that was there before 2020. Did you just add that this year?
I added that in November in beta, and I think in January I pushed it. So in this case I had to re-implement the entire Oculus runtime and bypass it. So whenever a game launches, I tell it, no, not use the Oculus runtime, use mine. And so I had to re-implement everything that the Oculus runtime does on PC and to pipe the video to the Quest. And essentially, so that's why it works for most games, but you have to launch your game from the Games tab in VR. Like there's a little quirks that have to be met to work. But
good to know. Thank you.
Then Nimsoni asked, is there any chance of you looking into using your screen capture methods as a way to open up more non-VR games to possible VR mods, like a more expanded Vorpex?
That's always tricky because things like Vorpex use injection, and injecting like DirectX or a game to do other things is always very tricky because sometimes they have like cheap protections that prevent that, or the game might update and then it won't work. So it's very, very custom. So I don't really like doing those kind of injection techniques for specific games because it never ends.
I am curious though what you would like if you would work on a program similar to Farpax, what that would look like, because Farpax is still like the only one that is pretty much still alive. I mean, Tridev kind of gave up, and then you had another one. So I'm curious.
Probably, I don't think I'd spend time on the PC side for because it's a lot of work and it's a crazy amount of support to get.
Yeah.
And
I got a support question for you, Guy. You're probably the most online present dev that I've ever come across. Like you are reachable via the kind of the chat box on your website, vrdesktop.net. Yeah. Any tweet DMs, straight tweets, Reddit. You seem responsive within 24 hours on all of that. How do you manage that in addition to all the good work you're doing? Are you just on the PC 24/7?
Yeah, I mean, I just have my iPad here on the side, and I answer questions whenever I get them. I try to be as responsive as I can, but the downside is that it kind of eats away at my free time. So I'm eating as I get a message for a question, and we can just wait a second. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to keep all that forever, but at least now I think it's useful for user to get like a single point of contact and answer their questions.
Yeah. I've got a couple of questions for you as well. Like, what's the most unusual request that you get from users for a feature in Virtual Desktop? Do you have any really strange ones that you see pop up every now and again?
Oh yeah,
like X-rated, Mike.
I'm sure where this is going.
Of course.
Well, okay, yeah, I should keep away from the inappropriate stuff. But I get a lot of requests, weird stuff, weird features sometimes. But I like I said previously, all the features that I've added are suggestions from the community, so keep them coming. And
Even if they are a bit strange.
Yeah, even if they're strange.
It's good. It's a good excuse. Like, okay, this update is a bit strange, but hey, it's a community who wants it.
Yeah.
You don't get it if you don't ask for it.
Exactly.
And finally, sort of, what are the plans for the future for you? You know, in terms of your vision, like, you say you want to keep it streamlined in terms of your team numbers and everything else. So what's sort of like in the immediate future for you? Do you feel?
So right now I'm working on Mac support to get that for the Go, Gear VR, and Quest. It's for desktop streaming only. I know a lot of people want to stream VR games, but the Mac doesn't have any runtimes. Oculus doesn't support it. Steam doesn't support it. But for the desktop streaming, a lot of people have Macs and don't have Windows, so that will be useful. And then for other things, I can't really speak too much because people like to copy what I do. So
of course, keep them under wraps.
Secret.
Yeah. No, that was really, really awesome, really awesome. So it's been great to have you on the show, but we are sort of running out of time, and I feel like we could just speak to you for hours and hours and just like go through hundreds of questions, but we kind of got to keep it short because we're running late.
What I do want to say is, like, you put so much work into this. You're a very passionate guy. Everyone from the VR community appreciates what you're doing, and
we're blessed to have you.
Yeah, totally. And I think you deserve way more recognition than you have right now. Because for some, a virtual desktop is still a hidden gem. Hopefully with this podcast, that will be a different story, and with upcoming headsets and stuff. So we are just wishing you the best.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Yes.
So now let's pass over to Zim for some releases. I don't know how many releases you've got, but let's see what happens.
I will do the abridged version of the update. I know we're already running on time. We're past the 2-hour mark.
Definitely.
I'm going to have to race through releases, I think, this time, which is fine. You guys know I like a good race. But that was great. And I just wanted to reiterate, there were a couple of comments, which you'll probably have to scroll back to catch, Guy, but lots of praise for the app and you.
Yeah.
So keep it up. Stay healthy and keep doing what you do. Amazing work. And as you know, one of my favorite apps of all time, actually, VR or non-VR. Okay, let's talk about our releases. So first release. God, you're not going to believe this first one. So if all this news about the Go shutting down and everything else isn't scary enough, Carol Baskin has released a VR app of her own. And this
you serious?
This is like
experience where you see what happened to her husband.
This is probably one of those no comment spots. I would say. So
we don't want to get sued. We don't want to get sued, Carol. We don't want to upset her. She's renowned for that.
She knows her internet. Is all I'm going to say. So look, Big Cat Rescue, which if you're a fan of Netflix and have run through Tiger King, which is an excellent series, by the way, and it offers many a secret tale. Do check that out. This is basically, I'll cough at this one, but a fully immersive game that takes you on a journey of how to track down a tiger in the wild. At the same time, it's fueling you with knowledge and information about basically, how can you help in the race against extinction for big cats. This is a free app. It's an Oculus Rift exclusive. 25th of June it dropped. You can check it out. It doesn't look all that exciting to me personally. No. I'll be honest. I never really had a need to track down cats. And honestly, seeing into this and knowing a little bit about the whole Tiger King Carol Baskin character, and I do say character with a strong underline, I kind of think this is just a popularity marketing ploy for, yet again, her big cat engine. So
one thing though, like, I'm not defending Carol Baskin. I have no idea what went down in the past, but what I do want to say is that Carol Baskin has been interested in VR for a long time, and she was even a part of the VR 180 Creator Lab in America.
That's true.
And she is also following some of us on YouTube and is subscribed to our content. I'm not joking. I'm not making this up. It's true. So she has always been interested in...
Oh, wait, she's in the podcast.
Oh, she's in the comments.
Hello. Hi. No, but seriously, that's just a
no, but it's a really, and the thing is, the quality of their 180s. If you want to get, again, if Tiger King got you interested in big cats and you want to get closer to them, there's oodles of high quality 180 videos available on their YouTube channel, which is again hugely popular. Not only because of the show, it was hugely popular prior to that show, but
I think as well, like the way I look at it, this app is like an educational app for kids. You know, it's a great way to educate children, particularly about, you know, the fact that there's animals in this world that are slowly going extinct and we need to protect them. You know, I think that's kind of cool.
Exactly. So that's free for your Rift users. I always like, the thing is I like about free titles is even if it's a marketing ploy type thing, it's something for people who are a bit cash strapped after the Steam sales, and there's a bloody hell a lot of those going on. I'm not going to go.
This is the big release compared to Iron Man, for example. This is like a big deal.
This is the big release then. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next one. This next one is a re-release, and it's actually been on other platforms. And this is something that I honestly, until now, I wasn't convinced about, and now I'm convinced, and I'll tell you why. So this is the Persistence. Now, some of you have played it. I think this is the moment for the Persistence, and I'll tell you why again. So, $26, £23. This was previously dropped in 2018 on the PSVR. It dropped to Steam in May 2020, and it is now June 25. Dropped for Rift users as well. So death is just the beginning. This is a roguelike game, and after every fatal encounter, you respawn. So as you go through this iterative process of death and recovery, restoration, you download into a new host body, and this stealth horror game is a gripping way to get through a series of gear upgrades, character changes. And the thing that really convinces me is not only the PlayStation VR kind of upgrade to PC on the graphics department, as there are slight benefits there. It's asymmetric multiplayer capability, which I didn't know was there on PSVR, but I think it's that slight bit more attractive on PC. So you can actually have up to 4 players take control of what's called the Solex. And this is the ship's engineering system. And you can help or hinder the player as they're going through this horrific experience. So it's got elements in there of things like a dread halls, but then the integration elements with others running an app on phone or tablet with iOS or Android. So
the only shame about it is that it's no motion controller support.
Yes, and that is the number one thing. It's a gamepad or keyboard game. So unfortunately, that's the disadvantage to it.
So you're saying you can join in with like your phone or tablet, but also have like all VR setups? Is that possible too, or it's just
no? So it's basically asymmetric. So it's 4 tablets controlling bits of the ship system, very similar to, you mentioned Covert earlier. So you get this kind of 2-dimensional overlay of the level where the player is, and you can interact with some subsystems. And I love the fact that at times the players are incentivized to work against the player. So I think Persistence is
It's a cool update actually.
It was there. This is the thing. It actually, I skipped it by because it was there in PlayStation VR.
I didn't even know.
I didn't know either. Otherwise, I love horror stuff, so I would have done this with my audience, of course. And now it's on. It's in my radar. So I thought I'd repeat that for others who might have missed it.
Yeah, planning to give this one a go actually. I've missed it on previous platforms, so now that it's on Rift, I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah, I just think like the graphics they got in there, the capabilities there, it's on the platforms, easy peasy.
This looks interesting.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious actually. Guy, are you into the horror thing, or do you not touch horror?
No, I don't. Sorry.
You don't have to say sorry. There is a very large audience out there who agree with you, I'm sure. Now, the final title, this will be of no surprise to any of you who have been watching the updates lately. Iron Man VR is coming. Holy shit. And I say that having played through the demo several times and enjoyed myself holistically on that. Camouflage, 3rd of July is the date. And for the low price of $349 US, you can get the PSVR bundle. So if you only have a PlayStation,
for the game,
you get all kinds of things. No, thank God. You get a Blu-ray of the film. You get the game. You get Move controllers. You get the headset. Whole bunch of stuff for $350. Or if you're like all of us and you already have all the equipment, thank God, $40 for that, or £30. So that's a pretty decent price.
I do, by the way, think it will have microtransactions, not in a way where it's pay to win. It's just some suits that you can get, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, if you're into cosmetics, then
The suits actually come, I think, with the big bundle. They mentioned that. So now that you're mentioning there might be some paid DLC, that's an important point. So again, if you don't know what Iron Man is, you can be the Armored Avenger. You've not been paying attention, and you can fly around the skies. I think we all kind of unanimously, for those who've played it, are very convinced in the mechanics behind this one. Are quite excited to play.
Yes, 100%. Definitely looking forward to this one. Yes.
Absolutely a reason to have a PSVR in 2020. Yes. A couple of quick mentions and then we're out. So again, I like looking after people with some things on Steam as well. So one of the things I'm going to mention is Quinero 2, which is a free virtual reality cinematic experience. This one caught my eye. For fans of The Invisible Hours, pay attention, because Quinero 2 offers a kind of a time control experience, much like The Invisible Hours did.
That's
and
nice.
I think we haven't seen this repeated enough. There was 1111 was the other one that offered a similar kind of integration. And I think that
The one with the bomb, with the bomb explosion.
that's
You have to
1111.
figure. That's that one.
Yeah,
Okay,
the spacey 1111 one. Yeah, and that was kind of short compared to Invisible Hours, I would say. But this one is interesting. It looks like, there's not a huge amount of interaction, but from the characters and the look and feel of the game, Quinero, which is set in the future and kind of like kind of almost like a cyberpunk universe. This is another one where you have that ability to slow down time, stop the clock, and you're kind of like a future detective. You're meant to kind of figure out the mystery here. So that one looks good. If you're short on cash, that's free on Steam. And that landed on the 25th of June. I don't know, people landed all kinds of things 25th of June. And then the other one that I'd mention, just very briefly, you guys remember Mind Show?
Mind Show, yeah.
Yeah.
So Mind Show, you were able to set up a scene and kind of make your own VR-based comic strip or whatever you want. But it's been a couple of years. We haven't seen many competitors to that. Now there is one. So Flipside Studio has landed, for those who like Mind Show and want another go. You can set up your scene, play it back, record it, stream it to various platforms. Go take a look at it if that's your kind of thing. I decided I wouldn't run the trailer. It's kind of, you set up a scene, you can zoom in on characters, you play it back, very much like Mind Show. And from what I've seen in the reviews, a little bit rough around the edges at the moment, but has some features that Mind Show didn't. So those are the releases and quick mentions this week for what you should look out for in VR.
Very good. Very good. So instead of recapping everything, I'm just going to sort of round up the show at this point, because I think if you follow the show and you've watched up until this point, you know when to go live. You know what platforms we're on. We appreciate your support, for watching us live. And I also want to say thanks again to Guy for joining us live. Make sure you hit a like on this video, because Nathan will tell me off otherwise, and make sure you subscribe to the channel as well for all our future content. We'll be back as usual next week, so have a great week in VR. Keep safe and well, and until then, bye-bye for now. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.